Yes. 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 Eliminated. Yes. Yes. They need to be eliminated. They are just the worst. You know, it's crazy because like I'm sure a lot of you might not quite realize it, but like just go look on anything that you can find where somebody's posting about Palestine, somebody's posting about, you know, anything that has to do with that shit, and you'll see that the they that replies, that comments, are just the worst people ever. They really are just. It's like, how are they so stupid? Is that part of the thing? I guess sexual abuse that they do. It's one of the tactics, you know, to make it seem like it's. But I mean, I just can't stand, like, who this, like, they make it very easy, right? They make it easy to hate them. And I can't understand why anybody would support them. They're just awful. They're just horrible, horrible human beings. Like, deep down, fundamentally. And I would imagine, you know, it starts with birth and with the process that you're born into. You know, the Matitza Bipa or Bape. Like, that shit is disgusting, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I know it's for boys. But whether you're the one being cutty slicey sucky or you're the one watching it, you know, a part of the party, whatever it is, it has to affect you. And I really do just hate these pieces of shit. What the fuck was going on last night? You know what was going on last night? See, you know what's interesting to me? Is when people like you come on here, who you're clearly on our side, and you probably watch all sorts of. They were, you know, what you see on my feed is different. It's just different. You won't see the same behavior on other people's feeds. You won't see the same sort of effort put into anyone else like you do with me. And I think it's just because I check a certain number of boxes that they can't help. They're terrified of. Like I always say, that the leader of the revolution can't be a black guy, and it can't be a white guy. Right? It has to be a biracial person. Because it's just too easy to you know, when it's a black or a white guy, it's just too easy to say, oh, they're racist, or oh, well, they're this, that, and the other. Trump is on the client list. Exactly. That's why we're bombing Iran. That's why there's all these floods, these crazy floods in Texas and shit. And the thing is, you might not be there yet. You might not understand that controlling the weather is old. They've been able to do that for a long fucking time. Big distraction from Big Pedo. Yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's really just a big fucking game. It's a big fucking show. It's all theater. And they're just trying to keep us as stupid and complacent and you know, as we can be. Operation Popeye Vietnam. Fuck. I just read Operation Popeye, though. I can't remember which one that was. I've read so many of them that I forget what it was, but I know I just read Operation Popeye. But like I said, like you see on my feed something you. Oh right, they stopped the monsoon season, right? Or they prolonged it, didn't they? Wasn't it that they prolonged it? I didn't think they stopped it with cloud seeding. Yeah, I mean, marine cloud brightening, stratospheric aerosol injection. I think they prolonged it. There's a great movie from 1969. It's a documentary that was made at Woodstock. And it's crazy that a lot of people don't know about it, because it really is like one of the most fascinating documentaries ever made. And the soundtrack is just built in incredible, right? But then you see all the behind the scenes stuff. And what a couple of Jews did was they had two crews outfitted with cameras. And they walked around Woodstock. And the documentary is like 4 hours long, right? And the whole time they show you a split screen. So you're seeing both crew, what's happening in real time and that they're filming. And it's just, like I say, it's just fascinating. But there's one point in the film, just before the rain hits, the famous rains that made the mudslides and all that shit, where a couple of Vietnam vets come running up to the camera and they go, look, you see that? And they shows one of these big military planes spraying out this huge fucking cloud, spraying out this huge thick ass trail. And they go, look, they're gonna rain us out. It's going to start raining soon, and this is what we did in Vietnam. And like, they acknowledge what's happening in real time, all the way back in. Like, if you don't think they could drop shit out of planes almost immediately after learning how to fly planes, you're kind of foolish. But it's like this evidence is there's a lot more evidence to everything we're talking about than people realize. And it's weird to hear people negatively talk about it, and I'm not driving. But way to try to distract and focus on something else. No, I have a driver. I don't drive like that. No, you're crazy. I have a driver that stays silent, and he or she just does what they're supposed to do. I'm rich like that. But it's like, again, it's like there's so much more than people realize. People always say things like, well, don't you think if that was happening, somebody would have spoke out about it? Don't you think that there'd be evidence, there'd be and it's like, there always is, and there always was. It's just, it's whether you've seen it or not. And that's where most people's arrogance comes in, right? People just don't realize what an important role arrogance plays in all of this. People's arrogance is insane. And it's funny because they'll say things like, the people like me are arrogant because I don't believe in whatever narrative it is. But the reality is, it's the arrogant person that thinks they know, like they can decipher which things are true and which things aren't. Because everybody, nobody believes the narrative we're given 100%. Nobody goes, yeah, the government's always telling me the truth. History is accurate 100%. The news is accurate. Nobody actually believes that shit. Whoa, that dude just drove up, took his dunk. What the fuck was that? That was really fucking weird. I live next to a naval base. We always have this same dumbass profile come in and say the same thing. Well, it's a different profile, but same dumbass thing. I live next to naval bases. Duh. I want to talk about submarines. Duh. If you really want to talk about submarines, go watch the first Submarines Aren't Real parts 1 through 9, and you debunk everything being said. Other than that, try to stick to the topic. It's easier to question someone than it is to trust them. For sure. For sure. But funny thing is, we say that about our own personal lives, and yet we trust a system that we absolutely shouldn't. Like, that's the craziest part. Everybody knows at least one example of the system lying about something, or the historical record not being true, or, something along those lines. And yet we still trust the system emphatically. It's such a strange thing. Toss what shit? You guys are so dumb. Just dumb. The same fake ass Israeli profiles come here day after day because they hate me so much. They got nothing going on. It's 8 a.m. and they're here trying to get my attention. How does that make sense? Where do you see this at? People that watch other truthers and shit like that. Do you ever see anything like this? The answer is no. I've watched other truthers before. I've never seen anything even close to what happens on my page. But the thing is, most truthers are telling you to believe in God or some other dumb shit. Like, it's like I say, you know that the system lies. You know that it's all bullshit. And yet you're arrogant enough to think that you can pick and choose which things you like. Like all the Trumpanzees, You're fucking stupid. It's just it's insane how stupid people can be, on purpose. They will do whatever they want, whatever it can to remain in power despite which party is in control at the time. For sure. Because again, thinking that there's a difference between the parties, that's where you're lost there. The parties are it's just actors. It's all just actors. It's all just theater. It's designed to make you think certain ways, and that's that. Gas prices, $2.89 for regular. Sure do love how that fucking went way down, right? Love those cut gas prices. Love those cut food prices, don't you? Like that's a prime example, right? All you Trumpanzees, you push the idea that when Trump got in office, the gas prices and food prices are going to be cut and blah, 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 and he's going to end all the wars with one phone call. Stupid shit like that. And then when it doesn't happen, you're not big enough to hold your guy responsible or accountable. You don't say things like, yeah, I was foolish enough to believe him, but obviously he's just another piece and nothing he said is true. You're not, I don't understand that. Why aren't you more upset about the fact that you were lied to? How much more lies do you have to receive before you think that it's a liar telling you these things? Like, I don't get it. I can't for the life of me understand. Like, cause I'm just a fucking human. I'm just a regular person raised in the same environment, the same situation that all of you were raised in. told I have to believe all the same bullshit all of you were told to believe. And you know, I had to pass the grades. I had to, you know, do as I was told to get my paycheck and all these other things, right? I don't know what it is that makes us so different. You know, I don't understand what makes you still fall for all of the lies. That's $1 cheaper than what I can get it for. Well, you know they charge different stuff in different situations. Lesser of two evils in comparison. What are you talking about? I mean, again, like, even if you're going to take that standpoint, how is Trump worse than Biden? Look at our situation. It's like the Trumpansies completely forget that Trump locked us down. That people lost their livelihoods. People lost, family members and all these other things because of Trump. The whole Me Too thing got squashed because of Trump. The whole pizza shit got squashed because of Trump. Oh, we've got another person who's relative. It's funny how we always get the relatives. People that don't actually know shit. But they can say, oh, my father-in-law, blah, blah, blah. Sure he has. And you know, if he told you that, it must be true. Especially if he's a military man, because you can always trust what military people say. It seems weird how much it bothers people. For me to be wrong about this thing, you would think that, like, it wouldn't garner so many fake profiles trying to distract from it. Like, I can't even imagine why anybody would care about my belief in submarines. I can't show what I called it, because I was just so surprised that seemingly so many people care. And I think it's one of those things where, you know, a lot of you respond because you know it's true, or you know it's not true. You know I'm telling the truth, that submarines aren't real. But you know, you're like trying to bully yourself into believing it. Seriously, if anybody really didn't think, or really did believe submarines are real and I'm crazy, you just go watch the first 9 parts and debunk what I have to say. That's pretty simple. I mean, this isn't rocket surgery. It's simple. Just go watch the videos and debunk the points that are being made. Why not do that? Where's the difficulty in that? I'd say probably things you watch online aren't live. And if they are live, it's like a live feed. Like, I went live and then I posted it, and now you can see it. But it's, you know, it's such a fascinating thing to me that instead of talking about this clear genocide, this lying ass president and us being duped and just all of these things, you know, you're like dead set on talking about something that really doesn't matter in the scheme of things. You know, my perspective on submarines doesn't matter. Now, whether or not they're real or not, that matters. In a small way. I mean, not really. The end of day, there's no real winning, is there? You're damned if you play the game and you're damned if you don't. Well, that's how you're supposed to think. You're supposed to be, you know, defeated. Have that defeatist mindset. That's what they want us to have. That's how they want us. I mean, look at everything you're taught to believe, right? Every belief system that people subscribe to is gloom. A Christian, let's look at Christians. Very best case scenario, right? The very best thing that can happen in the for a Christian is that their goofy ass Jesus floats down from heaven, and as soon as his little toenail touches the ground, the 22 good Christians that exist get raptured, while the rest of us die horrible deaths in Armageddon. That is your best case scenario, right? You believe in a round earth, right? If you believe in a round earth and you believe that at any point, any point, right now, it could happen, a rock can fall out of the sky and wipe everything out like it did dinosaurs. Just that simple. That just one little piece. And that's something that, like, we don't really think about it. We, like, as far as like trauma that we cause our children, right? You tell your children that, and these are children with children's mindsets, you know. It's not like these are Rhodes Scholars or anything. Your children with their children mindsets who really don't have any sort of clue how big the world is, and you know, they basically know the house they live in, their grandma's house, you know, the 10 square mile area that they live in. They don't really have any sort of concept as to how big everything is. But we tell these kids who are you know, just barely getting their bearings, and just sort of, you know, they're dumb. Kids are dumb. I have kids. I know for a fact that kids, especially when they're little, they're dumb. You tell them that there was like, you bolster dinosaurs. You make them think that dinosaurs, you know, they play with them, and you show them movies and shit like that, cartoons like dinosaur train. You know, you show them shit like this, and then you tell them, you know, these giant, huge monsters that would eat you in one gulp, and you know, they're super cool. They're so much cooler than anything we do or anything like that. These giant monsters, they roamed the earth. They were everywhere. And suddenly a rock fell out of the sky and killed everything. And that could happen again. Don't worry, sweetheart. It's not going to happen in your lifetime. But the kid's like, how do you know? You know? You're telling me rocks can fall out of the sky and destroy everything? How many of you, you know, can reconcile with that in your own head, and just like, I mean, you might think you have a grasp on it, but you really don't. If suddenly the news came through that there was a rock about to fall from the sky, we were days away from a rock falling from the sky, people would freak the fuck out. They wouldn't be okay with it. And even then, you still wouldn't have any sort of real concept of what's going to happen. You have your movies, you know, your movie imagery and whatnot, but you don't fucking know. You know what else you do to children that's really fucked up is the religious thing. You tell children that they're not supposed to believe in Santa Claus, you know, they're not supposed to believe in fairy tales and all this other shit. But they should have faith that Jesus is real and God is real, and, you know, the fairy tale aspect of things, you know, your parents who you respect and who are your whole world, well, they don't believe in fairy tales. They're the grounded people. They're the people that are, you know, they know everything. Moms know everything and shit like that. We say those kinds of things. And gotta do this for now. I'm sorry. I'm gonna do it well, it's still cool. We tell them, your parents, they don't believe in fairy tales, but this one they do. This one is an okay fairy tale for you to believe in. You're allowed to. Not only are you allowed to, you're supposed to believe in this one. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't experience it. But mom and dad believe it. Grandma believes it. Everybody believes it. So I guess it's true. And then you give them this impossible rule list to follow. If they don't follow this fucking list of rules, they are going to burn in hell for all of eternity. Again, I don't know how many adults can reconcile with that idea of eternity. But this is burning in hell. The God that loves you, that you're supposed to worship and praise with everything you do and all this other shit. If you don't follow this list of impossible rules, you're going to burn in hell for all of eternity. And this is children. This is people who, given any situation, I mean, I can remember being a kid in wishing my imagination was like the Muppet Babies. I could make my dreams come true. But still having a very active imagination, playing superheroes. I used to wrestle all the time. I mean, I was an only child, so I had to have a really, really big imagination. Right? And so when you then tell these children, believe this or you die, or not only do you re-die over and over again. You're in hell, burning in hell for all of eternity. This isn't shit that we sort of pass this off because as an adult you've accepted it and you don't even really think about it too much. But as a child, imagine what that's like for children. To be told that more than likely you're going to burn in hell for all of eternity because you can't follow that rule list. These are the types of things that we do to children, and this is just part of it. Those that also, you believe in a round earth, right? So then you accept this idea of pole shifts. That the earth is like a giant orange, and it has the peel on the outside and the core, and sometimes that peel will loosen itself and spin all the way around. Top becomes the bottom, bottom becomes the top. And we all know this because we all know the same story, that there was a mammoth, woolly mammoth, was found with grass still in its mouth. It was in mid-chew when it was flash frozen. And that's like that. We all go, As a Christian mom, I'm trying to decide if I want to do Santa. I've heard a lot of people like yourself that become bitter about God because they believed in Santa. What? What are you talking? See, this is the kind of shit I'm always saying, right? Christians, and you can take this with you in any form of life, in your job and your relationships and all of it. But especially with Christians will literally make up a narrative because they can't argue with what you're saying. And you'll see this in everything. When you're arguing with somebody and they start making points that you're not making, so they have an argument, right? They give themselves something to argue. They're not arguing your point. They're not arguing what you're saying. They're saying you're saying something ridiculous so they have something to argue against. Who became bitter against God? I became bitter against God. God doesn't exist, so I'm not bitter against it. It's dumb. And if anything's going to make me bitter against God, it's probably all of the pedophilia that happens in God's house, in the church. Right? The fact that your God has this viewpoint, even closer, of children being raped, yeah, that's pretty fucking gross. And your God does nothing about it. But like this is such a great example. I'm so glad that person said that, because that's what you see. People do that kind of shit all the time. She can't argue any sort of legitimacy about God or anything like that, or even how ridiculously stupid it all is. She turns it into some Santa Claus argument. Like that's how just brainwashed and I mean stupid. Literally, I don't know what other word to use. You're stupid. You've been made into stupid. You might not be stupid. You might be somebody that can figure things out really easily, or you're well organized, you have your life together. But at the end of the day, you believe in stupid things, and you end up saying really stupid things because of that belief. You were talking about Santa. No, I'm sure you're sorry for committing. But I'm sure you are. You definitely don't want to engage in that. You're sorry for commenting because, you realize how dumb you look. And I mentioned Santa like in a brief thing, but you heard what you wanted to hear and then stuck with it because you knew you couldn't argue anything else. You honestly believe that, like, and it's weird too because, all of you Christians, you also believe the earth is round, right? So where does God live? Where does the devil live? That whole belief structure involves a firmament. And then above the firmament are the waters of heaven. And that's where God lives, and the layers and all that shit. But then you're going to sit here and also be like, you're flat earther, you're so stupid. Like, most Christians have no idea what their Bible says. What's the very first thing your God does after it turns on the light? Doesn't make the sun and moon till the fourth day, which I don't know how you have 4 days without the sun and the moon, but that's the narrative. What's the first thing your God does? Ooh, if you're the Christian mom, watch this Yeshua guy is going to make you guys look really, really stupid. Listen, Hannah, why do you believe in God? What's your reason? Isn't it strange how you're somebody who probably requires proof in most aspects of your life? You're not just going to believe some shit because somebody says something, especially somebody you don't know says something. You require proof. You'll always say that. Well, what's your proof? Well, what do you believe? You say shit like that to people. But then when it comes to God, you literally have no reason. And she says it. I'm not a flat earther, right? So you don't know what your Bible says, do you? I will if you watch Wes Huff, I'll watch your guy. What are you talking about? What guy am I saying to go watch? Why don't you just engage in the conversation? See, why are Christians so infantile, so childish in their perspective? I mean, it all fits. It's like when they say that somebody gets abused at a young age. That's usually the age at which their mentality stops. Like if you're with a broad that was abused at 13, 14, and you end up having like arguments with her, you'll find yourself like, why does it feel like I'm arguing with a child? Because their mentality sort of stops right there. And I guess the same thing with religion. You have to have this childish mentality to believe. It's just insane. If this person that you watch would destroy me, how come you don't have anything that they've said that can destroy me. If you've been watching them and they're so good at what they do, shouldn't they have filled you with information that you can then take with you and engage with other people? I guarantee my loyal watchers, they have arguments that, you know, they didn't have before, and they crush people with them. Look at this. Anyone watching this, stop arguing with this evil man. Pray he finds and stops interacting with him. Right. Pray. So if you believe in the power of prayer, even a little bit, the fact that that you pray for anything else but I pray that the church stops raping children shows how fucking arrogant and self-centered and what a piece of shit you are. If you believe that God will hear your prayers and change its mind, has God's plan, but then you like, hey God, can you change that? And God goes, okay. And see, I'm going to bring up a whole bunch of realistic, you know, things, scenarios, questions, and you guys won't answer any of it. You'll just cry. I don't require proof. At some point, you have to have faith. I understand. Right. See, there you go. You don't require proof. So you just go around the world just believing what anybody says to you? Is that what you're saying? You don't require proof. Why wouldn't you require proof? This is an organization that consistently rapes children. This is an organization that takes money from people. This is an organization that could end homelessness, could, you know, do all these great things and chooses not to. This is an organization that supports Israel. But this is, you know, this is where these weird cop-outs come in. Well, I don't require faith. I don't require proof. I just have faith. So you don't believe in God because of sin in the world, but who is sinning? What? Like, what? What are you even talking about? I don't believe in God because of sin? No, I don't believe in God because it's dumb. It's dumb. There's no proof. There's no evidence. And this whole, you know, chosen belief structure that they give us where it's based in guilt. You know, you're supposed to feel guilty because Jesus died for your sins. Well, who was the sin collector? Who was the group going up to God and being like, all right, God, those people, they've sinned a whole bunch. They've crossed that line. They have a limited amount of sins and they're way over it. So something has to happen. And God was like, I know. I will impregnate myself with myself, and then I will kill myself on a cross. Will that count for all the sins from here on out? And they were like, yeah, that'll work. Like, why did God have to send his only son to die for our sins? What kind of shit is that? I mean, Christian, flat earther, and cowboy, what's the difference really? Stupid. You're just stupid. The fact that you can't make better arguments proves the point. How many no? Matt, what's happening? Does evil exist? I mean, it's a word. Evil is, they love using 4-letter words. Evil, love, hate. They love giving us these 4-letter words that describe a huge range of emotions. And people like, you know, what you think is evil, other people don't. Literally had a Jewish guy on here yesterday, Dr. Jaffe, Dr. Stephen Jaffe, come on here and tell us that you know, pedophilia is their culture. You know, it's a cultural thing, and it's just what it is. You know, I mean, it's interesting. Like, you would think that the female, first of all, Hannah, the Christian, is clearly one of these, you know, Monday morning quarterback Christians. Doesn't actually know what her shit is. I was there, no denying it. He literally admitted to being a pedo. Yeah, it was fucking crazy. But like I'm sure Hannah ran away already. You know, it starts getting a little too real and the Christian runs away. But Hannah doesn't, she's a Christian when it's convenient for her. You know, she doesn't like the New Testament, 1 Timothy 2:12, that says, I permit no women to teach or have authority over a man. They are to keep silent. You don't like that part of the Bible, I'm sure. You know, I'm sure you don't obey your husband, right? But, you know, it's like, again, your arrogance steps in, where you believe you can pick and choose which parts you want to believe and which parts are just, you know, allegories or some shit. And Christians are the most arrogant people in the world. Well, the second most arrogant people. Tied with Muslims, but just behind the chosen by God people. But Christians just believe, you know, such arrogant nonsense. So much of the Bible, like it just, whenever they can't answer for something that's said, they go, oh, well, that's up for interpretation. But then they also want to pretend like the Bible's the Word of God. It's really fucking insane. But, you know, remember, Christians believe themselves to be secondary in their own religion. Their own Christian God favors a completely different religion, a cult, over theirs. And your Christian God happens to favor the bad guys in the Bible, because it's not the devil. The devil's not the bad guy in the Bible. The bad guys in the Bible are the sons of Abraham. Abraham being the head bad guy. The bad guys in the Bible who happen to kill your Jesus, kill your superhero, kill your Christian God's only kid, and yet they are his favorite chosen people. Like, how do you not see that as just insanity? I told you she'd run away. I told you she'd run away. I asked a question and he straight up told me he didn't know in his mind if he doesn't. Honestly, no, he won't pretend like he does. No, I'll look it up. Why not just look it up? I love looking up what people believe. But just look at how stupid people are. Like I love doing this. You guys want to see, you want me to, I can disprove gravity right now. Just the fact that you believe in gravity, you believe gravity is like when you think about what you believe, which you don't really do. But what you believe gravity to be is a sentient, intelligent force. You don't realize that you're making gravity really, really smart and basically alive. Because gravity, you know, in a vacuum, in a big giant vacuum, gravity makes a rock ball that has a liquid fire core revolve around a big giant burning ball. And I mean, that shit's also stupid. I hate to admit it, but the Big Bang Theory is actually dumber than the Christian narrative. And I hate saying it, I really do. But the Big Bang Theory is just as stupid. But you believe that gravity makes things revolve around each other in space, but then on Earth makes things stick. And this is one of those things that I put out there, and I never hear any round earther or anything like that want to address this. But let's just look at it from a common sense perspective, right? If you have different sized balls sitting on, you know, attached to something, and those things are spinning around, the attached thing is spinning, it's going to require more force, more strength to keep the bigger ball revolving around the thing than it would the little balls, right? It's just common sense. Just think. It's going to require a lot more force to keep Earth exactly in its gravitational, spot, so that the days, you can tell me what time the sun's going to set 10 years from now. Exactly to the minute. It works like a computer. That's not how nature works, but apparently this is how the Earth works. But it requires an X amount of force to keep the Earth in that position, stuck in that position with the sun. And that force required to hold that Earth in place is going to be much greater than the force required to hold a small little Mercury in place much closer to the sun. Just like it's going to require a lot more force to hold Jupiter and Saturn in their positions, which are even further out, so it requires even more force to hold those giant rocks. Even though somehow, like I've seen there's this video of like somebody cutting the Earth in half with a knife. You can see the core cutting, and the core spills out, and cutting Venus in half, and you can see, and then they cut Jupiter in half, and it's like, when I grew up, I was told that Jupiter and Saturn were gas giants. They were gas giants. Small little core, and then an outside that's just gases, apparently. I never understood it to begin with, but that's what they would tell us. But if you have this giant Jupiter that requires X amount of force to keep it in its gravitational alignment, how come everything inside that space between Jupiter and the sun doesn't get sucked into the sun, right? It would require a lot of force because the Earth is spinning around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour. When you spin around something, like if you have a string, a yo-yo on a string, and you spin it around, that yo-yo is trying to fly off. It's being held in place by the string. And the faster you spin it, the more that yo-yo is trying to fly off. So Jupiter is going around the sun at however many thousands of miles per hour. It's gigantic compared to the Earth. It's going to require a lot more force to hold it in place. So why doesn't the Earth and Mars and Venus and why doesn't that get sucked into the sun with all that force that's being, that's holding Jupiter where it is? And I know there's a lot of you that are just going to be dumb here. There might be one or two of you that go, wait a minute, that doesn't make much sense. But nobody's going to even attempt to answer the question, right? But you believe that gravity is this magical thing that just knows how to do these things. Gravity, when you're talking about revolving around something as opposed to making things stick to a planet, these are two completely different forces. One is revolving and one is sticking. We're talking about completely different forces. But you believe that this gravity on Earth knows exactly how much force it needs to hold water to the spinning ball and hold the water in place and hold it so that it can slosh all different ways, and there's like no force on it. You can't tell there's some sort of force. It moves as it flows like water. And there's a gajillion pounds of water on this planet. And if you've ever, simply spun a tennis ball, a wet tennis ball, you see that the water all coagulates. It all gathers together in the center and then flies out in a spiral. It doesn't fly in all different directions. It comes together and then flies off. You have a bajillion pounds of water on this giant rock that's spinning at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, And yet gravity knows how to hold the water exactly where it is without problems. And you would just think, I mean, again, you would think it would require a hell of a lot more force to hold a bunch of water in position on a spinning thing than it would to say let a cottonseed float through the air, because that's what it does. It lets birds fly. We can fly gigantic planes. If you look up the largest airplanes is 767 or whatever it is. Supposedly, the largest aircraft, commercial aircraft, hold as much as 68,000 pounds of fuel in the wings, just in the wings. It's in the wings, and then in the little compartment, I guess, you know, where the wings, you know, if you were to go straight across from one wing to the other, that space underneath the fuselage is also where the fuel is. So first of all, they claim that these planes are holding 68,000 gallons of fuel. If you know, a gallon of jet fuel, I think it weighs like 7.2 pounds. It's actually more, it's heavier than water. But if you multiply 68,000 by 7.2 pounds, plus the original weight of the plane, empty, you're talking about 1 million pounds flat plus, somehow able to defy gravity that's pulling down on every square inch of it, trying to pull things towards the center of the earth. Not to mention the 400 passengers, 200, whatever, however many hundred passengers, you know, at an average weight of 150, 200 pounds apiece. Like you're adding all of this weight that is somehow able to just fly. Doesn't have to correct for the nose or anything, just flies, just no problem. But you really want to see a great proof that gravity doesn't exist? That there's not some force that's pulling everything towards the center of the earth? Ready? You see that? Where's the force? Why isn't the force going and pulling my hair back down? Stupid people will say, oh, it's static electricity. So you think static electricity is more powerful than gravity, the force used to hold the water on the ball? Do you not see how ridiculous that is? Right? Like this is the stupidity that they have us in. Israel today is a European colony, the majority of which is Ashkenazi and Poland. They do not share the original Semitic. They just did a survey that said 95% of Israelis don't have Semitic blood. That's why they all changed their names. That's why every prime minister of Israel has had to change their name to something that sounded more Israeli, not the Milkowskis or the, you know, Baloviches or whatever they may have. And see, the thing about those things that you know, the earth-shape argument is one of these ones that is a huge distraction. I got caught up in it. Every time I'm talking about it, I get mad at myself. Because at the end of the day, if you really want to know the shape of the earth, then we Goyim have to unite and overthrow the Jays that control the narrative. We have to stop the genocide. You want to know the shape of the earth, we need to stop the genocide. You want to, you know the truth about vaccines, we need to stop the genocide. You want to know the truth about God and all this other bullshit, we need to stop the genocide. And that's it. That's the only way we get the real confirmation, is when people that we can trust are in charge of the information, are in charge of disseminating the information. Other than that, we're just, you know, we're arguing and fighting over, you know, the bullshit they want us to argue and fight over. That's why they give it to us. That's why so much of it is so stupid, because it makes you a stupid, complacent, you know, a slave who's too dumb to realize you're a slave, but smart enough to work the machines. Smart enough to keep the cogs turning. Henry Davis says, Y-O-U-R, unemployed, blah, blah, blah. This dumbass doesn't know the right yours to use. We're talking about shit that, my kids in school would get in trouble for, because at this point, in middle school and high school, they're too old to make that mistake anymore. Yet we're supposed to take this person's word, this dumbass who doesn't even know the right your to use. You lose all of your fucking credibility when you can't get your fucking yours, theirs, twos right. What's wrong with you? What are you, like, seriously, how fucking stupid are you? You have a fucking computer in your hands, and the computer will tell you the right your to use. It might even change it for you. But you're too stupid to do that while you're trying to tell somebody else they're stupid? Like, it's so amazing how easily that works out, right? Bro, stop pointing out how stupid I am. Like, you're so, and the fact is, you're such a stupid, arrogant prick that you don't go, shit, you got me there, dude. You're right, I should be better about this. No, you try to justify it by making it sound like it's okay. It's okay that I did this. You're focusing on grammar. Well, we're having a conversation about intelligence here. And when you can't even be bothered to use the correct words, like, why don't you just say pink pork pop, cheap pop, ploop plop, and then be like, what? I made the point. I just chose to use those words because it doesn't matter what words you use. Like, it's fucking stupid. It's the right your bro. No, it's not. No, it's not. You're unemployed. That's Y-O-U-R. You are unemployed. Right? You are is Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. Come on. We're combining two words there. You are. You're so fucking stupid. You're so fucking stupid. Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. So fucking stupid. And again, these are all just dumb, like, the majority of these profiles are dumbass Israeli bots. They are inbred. The controllers of the system, the programmers of the system, are stupid, inbred fucking weirdos, man. I promise you, they don't control the world because they're smarter than us. The reality is, all the good ideas come from us. They just take them. But they're not smart. The reason why they run the world is because they're the type of people that would starve a population. They're the type of people that believe in killing children. Well, we have to kill the children because if we don't, then they'll rise up against us when they get older. Why would they rise up against you if you were good? Like, there's so many questions that never get answered or asked in these things. Your unemployed friend on a Monday morning. Yeah, you're unemployed. Like, what are you talking about? Who's the your? What, are you talking about me being unemployed, or are you just sort of talking dumb nonsense? Because if you're just talking dumb nonsense, oh, sorry, I got that wrong. You're just a dumbass who's talking dumb nonsense. Needs attention. But it sounds like you're saying you're unemployed, friend, on a Monday morning. You just don't use punctuation or anything like that. But this is the stupidity. Instead of addressing anything that's being said, It's just this crybaby bullshit, which is weird because you would think, like, why would anyone even care? If I'm just sitting here wrong about shit, it's not like when I get off this feed, these guys go then find somebody else that is wrong so they can sit there and watch them for hours, day after day, trying to get their attention. That's just, oh, that's kind of my thing. Yeah, that's my thing. I like finding people that I think are wrong, randomly finding people that I think are wrong. And then I just watch them and I say dumb shit. It's so cool. You should try it. Right? Like it doesn't make any sense, especially when you think, okay, so my stated purpose is that we kill pedophiles and we end the genocide and stop this J slavery over the rest of us. And you have issue with that? Like what part do you take issue with? What part about that is? These bots' names are more dumb than anything, THAN anything they claim you say. Yeah, that's another one of those tricky ones that always gets people. Then and than. I know gravity doesn't exist, you dumbass. I've proved it. People say, oh yeah, watch, that's gravity. No, that's density and buoyancy. The lighter is more dense than the air around it, so it falls. But if it was, say, a helium balloon, where helium is lighter than the air we breathe, the oxygen mixture that we breathe, so then that makes things float because there's no force pulling anything down, you dumbass. Again, my hair proves it. Something as simple as my hair proves it. And the thing is, it doesn't matter what it is. If I make the argument, it's not like they actually address what's being said. They just say dumb shit. It's always just dumb shit. They don't address what's being said. Nobody's going to address the hair argument. Tell me how this doesn't disprove gravity. You tell me how my hair just fucking sitting straight up like that. Where's the force pulling it down? Why do things with different densities float in space and drop to Earth? Yeah, they do. How do you know? This is where stupidity comes in. You think you know what space is? You really think that there's this vacuum out there? And that even though there's no actual dome, there's like an invisible dome that you can pass through called the atmosphere that happens to spin at the exact same speed that the Earth is spinning at. I mean, what people don't understand is that, like, what you believe regarding that just goes against everything that you experience. How could anybody, before they were able to fly up there, supposedly, how would they even know that? And again, I hate going in this direction because I feel like I'm being distracted, but we're pointing out the lies. And when you realize you're being lied to, that's a whole different story. So many people will say stupid shit like, what about the James Webb Space Telescope, bro? Because they always say, bro. Like, you don't know shit about the James Webb Space Telescope. You just know that you're provided with pretty pictures. You don't even, you think those are like pictures, like a camera took a picture. When in reality, the James Webb collects data. The data is then somehow sent the 1 million to 1.5 million miles that it takes to get back to Earth. It's then decoded by the system, and then a painter, either an artist draws the picture or the computer draws the picture. But they're not taking a picture. But most people don't understand. The James Webb Space Telescope lives in what's called a Lagrange point. There are 5 Lagrange points. Each planet has 5 Lagrange points. Back in the 1770s, I believe, this guy named Lagrange somehow figured out, theorized, whatever, that in a vacuum, because he knew that we were in a vacuum somehow, that the sun that he knew is somehow, he knew it was 93 million miles away, that the sun that's 400 times the size of the Earth, because of no real explanation and no real, like, there's no real science behind this. It's not like this is an experiment you can do in your own house and figure things out, or you can create a vacuum environment and then see how this all works. You don't fucking, this is all just speculation. And it's crazy because he just happened to speculate correctly according to the narrative. But every planet has these Lagrange points, one ahead of the planet, one behind the planet, two in between the planet and the sun, and one further out from the planet, about 1 million to 1.5 million miles out. And that's where the Lagrange point is, or that's where the James Webb Space Telescope is. And these Lagrange points are gravity pockets that get pulled along with the Earth. So when you start saying, well, how do they maintain fuel for this James Webb Space Telescope? They don't have to. It's being pulled along in one of these Lagrange points. And the whole concept is so stupid, especially the idea that we somehow were able to launch, oh, Jesus, get away from me, B. We were able to launch a spacecraft and hit this Lagrange point. The amount of math it would take to know exactly when you have to launch your spacecraft and in what direction so that it can eventually meet up with the Lagrange point. Now, the Earth is spinning at 67,000 miles per hour. That means, the Earth is revolving around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour. That means the Lagrange point is traveling at 67,000 miles per hour as well. So think about this. We don't have any sort of rocketry that can even come close to 67,000 miles per hour. Nothing even fucking close. They sent this special telescope. Now remember when the Hubble supposedly went up, they had to spend all this time fixing it because the mirror was off and all this other shit. Not the James Webb. The James Webb just works. Never needs any maintenance whatsoever, never needs any cleaning, nothing. It just works. But these telescopes are like, they have all these, special instruments and all this circuitry and all this technology. They're not built for battle. They're built for science. So, again, nothing we have goes 67,000 miles per hour. So, when the space telescope intercepts the Lagrange point, you would imagine that the telescope would have to be there waiting for it. Because, and it would be a very small, like a precise kind of bullseye, a running bullseye, for you to be able to, a 67,000 mile per hour drive-by bullseye. But to think that you have to hit this Lagrange point that is, it's not like huge, but it's this wall of motion, of space, of, anything. And when you think about like car accidents, one of the worst things that happens in car accidents is when you get hit from behind because your neck snaps and the jolting of your body. If you're going 35 miles per hour in the direction and somebody going 65 miles per hour smashes into you, just because you're going 35 miles per hour doesn't mean the impact is absorbed any better. You're fucked. You're fucked if somebody hits you going that fast in any direction, but it's even if you're going with it. So how did the James Webb Space Telescope even get into Lagrange point without getting destroyed? We're talking about a wall, going from no speed, whatever speed, however, however they say it was intercepted, whether it happened to be flying in the same direction as the Lagrange point, which again, they must have went that way and then turned, or whether it just was waiting for the Lagrange point to catch it. These are things that you'll never find. There's no details on this shit. Going from whatever speed the telescope was going at to suddenly going 67,000 miles per hour would jar a whole bunch of shit loose, if not just completely destroy it. I mean, it's just stupid. But you don't think along these lines. You think, well, it's there because they said it's there. It's there because they said it's there. The people that lie to me about everything said it was there, so it's there. It has to be. And you won't even think about it. You won't even make it make sense to you. Does it really make sense to you that something can suddenly be traveling at 67,000 miles per hour and not be jolted, jarred loose, broken, nothing? It's on the same level of stupid as all the rest of it. It's on the same level as stupid as these round balls flying through space. I mean, like I said, the Big Bang Theory is even dumber than religion. And I can't believe I can say that. If I went back 20, 30 years and told myself that I would say that, I'd be mad at myself until I listened to the point being made. But when you think about it, because I always had these issues with the narrative. So, Big Bang Theory is that everything in the universe, which is so much more than you can even fathom. You can't even begin to wrap your head around. You can't even begin to wrap your head around how big the earth is. You, the regular human just standing there, you have no fucking concept of how big the earth is. And then the sun is supposedly 400 times the size of the earth. And the sun is just a small star. There are stars out there like Betelgeuse, which according to the narrative we're given, like there's this famous video that shows like the moon, Mercury, Venus, Earth, it shows that all these planets like in a row. It's like an animation where it shows when it just goes across and it's like the planets are sitting on a plane and the camera is going by them. And eventually you get, Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter, then you get the sun, and then it shows you all of these different stars, Ursa Minor or whatever it's called, blah, blah, blah. It shows you all these different stars and how big they are. And our sun you couldn't even see our sun next to Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse is so big that our sun is just a tiny little speck next to it, according to the narrative. Right? So all of the planets, all of the stars, all of you never get the answer of was the singularity, that's the start of the singularity was everything in the universe, because of gravity, is condensed down into something smaller than a match head. And so I always ask, like, is the singularity, is the match head sitting in a big giant empty universe, big giant empty warehouse, or does it also create the warehouse? Same thing like with God, like, who created God? There was no created. God was always there. That kind of stupid shit. Like, was there this big empty place and then God sort of created itself? And then was like, well, this is boring. I need to make some stars and shit and planets and like, it's really dumb. It's really dumb. But the Big Bang and the Christian story, they're actually much more similar than people acknowledge. They all require faith. They both have this there was no prior to. You're not supposed to ask what created the thing that created everything. Well, Christians love to say, oh, so you believe something came from nothing, huh? How does something come from nothing? Okay, well, what? God was always there. Duh. I mean, that's the only answer they ever give. It's just so, you clearly believe something came from nothing. Everything came from this one source that you believe, I guess, just always, like, it's just stupid. But the singularity is everything in the universe, all condensed down into this something smaller than a match head. And it's just pushing on itself and pushing on itself. Again, is it in a big empty area? Like, how could it? It's stupid. It's just stupid. But eventually, because, when you squeeze something so much, at some point, it's just going to explode in a huge explosion that spews out debris like a geyser. It just continues to spew out debris in every direction. The thing is, if it's something the size of a match head, by the time you get 10 feet away, 100 feet away, 1,000 feet away, the space between each particle is actually going to get bigger the further you go out. So by the time you're miles away from the original explosion, you're not going to have debris in between this part and that part. The space is just going to get bigger. But apparently, because of that same gravity that was holding everything together, it now creates, you get the Big Bang, then you get the black period, then you get the star creation period, which is stupid. Because they show you that, like, somehow with telescopes, they can look back in time, and they always show you like a tube, and then the tube comes together at the Big Bang point. It comes together. But that tube would have to be in every direction, so why would it come together? Like, it's really dumb. It's really dumb. But because of gravity, these gravity pockets, suddenly space debris starts swirling around and swirling and swirling. And eventually it starts collecting in the middle of the swirl and clumping up. And all these little tiny pieces, somehow when they clump together, they form one thing. It's not like it's a bunch of little pieces. It becomes one thing. And so at some point, and for some reason, it's not like it's because it gets to a certain size or whatever. But at some point, the clump gets big enough and then lights itself on perpetual fire. In a vacuum. It's a vacuum of space. There's no oxygen. There's no gravity. But it lights itself on fire, a plasma fire, a nuclear fire that will burn forever. At least forever by our terms, because eventually it will burn. It'll get bigger and bigger, and then it will shrink back down and it become a dwarf, a brown dwarf, and like all this stupid shit. Believe me, I spent lots and lots of time looking into this stuff because this shit used to fascinate me. I used to want to be, when they said we're going to colonize Mars, people need to, would you volunteer to go on that one-way trip? I was like, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, I'll go. Even though I'm a father, I'll still go because, then my kids they'll be taken care of, and they'll have the dad that was the first colonizer on Mars. Like, that's how I thought. But so the clumps form the big fireballs. Now, interestingly, in a vacuum where there's no, quote, gravity, somehow there's still a top and a bottom. Yo, morning. Somehow there's still a top and a bottom, and then there's an equator. There's a middle line where along that equator, somehow in like a fried egg sort of pattern. What's up, Dookie?
Hey, Dad.
How you doing?
Good.
Sleep good? Good. In a flat egg shape, in concentric rings, They don't go like a ring up here, a ring over here, a ring over here, you know, and all. It's a flat thing because there's an up and a down somehow. There are the poles. Which again, this is just stupidity. Like, it's just stupid, but you accept it because, you know, the pastors of science told you to do it. The clergy of science told you to do it. The people in the special coats with the infallible moniker, they told you that this is the way it is, and you just better believe it. That's all it is. You just better believe it. So along in these rings, more little gravity pockets form. And now more clumps come together, and they clump and clump. Stars do, where they light themselves on fire and burn forever. No. Amazingly, like in Earth's case, the inside lights itself on fire. Huh? Yes, the inside lights itself on liquid molten fire, while the outside stays intact. And eventually, because of reasons, the atmosphere forms. And then it just starts raining. And it starts raining and raining and raining. And then somehow that forms oceans and lakes. Somehow the oceans get salty, but the lakes don't. Not really sure. It's not like it rains salt water. That doesn't happen. So some process turns the oceans to salt. Not really sure. But at some point, a rock falls out of the sky. Again, another rock falls out of the sky. And lots of rocks apparently fall out of the sky at this time. It's a very commonplace thing back then. But now it's not that much anymore. Now it doesn't happen at all, actually. But back then, rocks fell out of the sky. And one of those rocks, there happened to be a single-celled organism that survived the falling, catching fire, smashing, blowing up, fell into the water, and it survived. And then somehow, again, over millions of years, that organism went from a single-celled organism into a double-celled organism, and then a quadruple-celled organism, and then an octesimal, I don't know what the oc version is, but, and it just kept dividing and dividing, and eventually it turned into fish. And all fish, not just one kind of fish, all kinds of fish. Crab, fucking, you know, lobsters and octopus and jellyfish and whales and dolphins and you know, dinosaur fish, crocodiles and shit. This one thing turned into all that stuff. And then one day, two fish, it would have to be two because you have to be able to procreate. Two fish just decided they were going to walk out of the water and start living on the land. That would be like one day two people just decide that they're going to be able to breathe water and, you know, go colonize underwater. That's basically the same concept. But two fish come out of the water, and now these fish turn into big, giant fucking dinosaurs. All different sizes, all different shapes, all different kinds. 300 million years of dinosaurs. Big, huge, fucking bigger than anything that exists today. And they say that the elephant is the biggest something can exist because otherwise its bones, its legs wouldn't hold it, its stomach would fall out, it'd be too heavy. The weight would be too much. But back then, big, giant lizards. Big, huge, you can't even fathom how big these fucking things are. They're just walking around, boom, boom, and fighting with their tail. And the T-Rex, little arms. I'm mean because I got a big mouth. Little arms. These things exist for 300 million years. And then all of a sudden, another rock falls out of the sky. And this time it wipes everything out. At least everything on land. And this is where, again, I don't really know. So do we say that more fish came out of the water, and this time they decided, like, we're not going to be lizards, we're going to be mammals? Or did some little creatures somehow survive the cataclysm, that the big explosion, and then the fucking nuclear winter that comes afterward all over the planet for millennia? So how did they survive without the sun, and how did the plants? It's just dumb, right? Oh yeah, those fish, the original dinosaur fish, they even learned how to fly. Some of them turned into flying giant lizards. Fish turned into flying giant lizards. Who knew? But like I say, then we get the second happening, and this time the fish make, like, you know, tigers and elephants and giraffes, the giraffe, and chimpanzees, along with all kinds of other stuff that, you know, some of which isn't here anymore, and blah, blah, blah. And then over time, the chimpanzees alone turn into people. Tigers didn't turn into people. Elephants didn't turn into people. Dolphins didn't turn into people, and they have huge brains too. The chimpanzees turned into people that then basically lived the same way. Like, this is where it just gets confusing, because, like, you know, according to the narrative, we basically lived the same way up until the turn of the century. Somewhere around the late 1800s, we started figuring things out. But that doesn't really fit the narrative that we're given. That doesn't explain the Roman aqueducts and the pyramids and you know, all of the architecture in India. The step wells and the star forts that exist all over the place. The narrative we're given doesn't explain those things very well. We're supposed to believe that a relatively stupid people who you know, had horses and carriages and no power tools and shit, they were able to build these monumental structures that still exist today. We don't build anything like that. We don't build shit that's gonna last 1,000 years and still be functional. What I always wonder is, like, when it comes to those big giant churches and you know, castles and shit like that, how do they maintain the temperature in there? How do they heat those things in the winter? Seems like it would be a pretty huge task to be able to heat one of these giant castles in the wintertime, but don't worry, there's no information to sort of answer that question. You know, we do see the big fireplaces in certain structures and certain, you know, pictures and whatnot, but those wouldn't heat an entire building. And to maintain that fireplace, you understand how much material would be required to maintain that shit? We love to forget about that part. I did a really deep dive into the bricks. How the fuck did we get all those bricks? The manufacturing of bricks requires a lot of materials. Where did all the material come from? Where were the brick factories? How are all the bricks transported? You know, these kinds of things you just never get any answers to. But, like, the idea that only the chimpanzees turned into people and we lived a certain way, and then roughly 100 fucking years ago, 150 years ago, we started figuring shit out, and now here we are 150 years later, 120 years later, and we know it all. We know it all. We got telescopes that can see back in time. You know, we got submarines that can, like, if we had submarines, why is the ocean still such a mystery? And we've had submarines forever, according to so many of you. Yet they constantly tell you that we know more about space than we do about the ocean. Why? Why is that? But we have submarines, we have planes, we have space rockets that can fucking land back down. Those videos always look so fake to me. But we just figured it all out. Well, they figured it all out. And then they give you bits and pieces of information, and then you just believe what you like. News originally why made to explore the ocean. Why'd they stop? Not sure. I mean, just think about how ridiculous the whole narrative is. You either don't believe what you're told, or you do and you should shut up, I guess. I don't know. But like, you know, I took my kid to school today, and we drove through one of the, you know, foundation sort of towns in this area, one of the towns that's been around forever. And, you know, the building's still standing. I was actually going to do a jump out and film it and show you guys, but I chose not to today. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. But these churches that you see, that the story will be this church was built in 1820 or some shit. And it's still, and you just go, well, how did they do it? You look at the population count. The population count is like 500 people maybe. So there's 500 people in the town, and you build 5 different mega churches that look like they would take a long time for us to build them with today's modern technology. And look at all the dumb comments. Look at how desperate people are to not answer for what I'm saying. Well, just let you know to keep calling me, but just for reference, I'm also American. My last name is very English. You don't have got to be scared, my man. As an American, you have what? Your freedom to your opinions. I'm just an observer. Well, nobody's asking for observation. I'm asking for engagement. Tell me what part I'm getting wrong. I don't ask anybody to just sit here and just watch. That's weird. Puck the Fedos. That's a good one. Puck the Fedos. I like that. So yesterday, let's switch, because we've gotten so far away from the real point, which is the genocidal pedophile cult that controls the world, right? What the fuck is this? And yesterday I literally read you this insane article based out of Israel on the Israel Hayom page. Apparently they had hundreds of boxes of electronic detonation fuses. Right. Guy, do you know anything about the Israeli art students working on the project in the World Trade Centers around the time of 9/11? I've heard about it. I've heard about a lot of different arts, you know, art students and the taking of the pictures with the lighters in front and all that shit. And it seems like there's definitely more than enough evidence to warrant an investigation into it. But I think even more telling is the dancing Israelis aspect of things. You know, who these dancing Israelis were. And that's even a kind of a lower one, but the dancing Israeli, a woman looked out her window on 9/11 and noticed that there were this group of Arabic-looking men with a tripod and a camera set up facing the towers, and she thought it was kind of strange. And they were there before the first plane hit. And then after the first plane hit, they were celebrating, so the woman called the police and whatnot. And then after the second plane hit, they were celebrating again, and she called the police again, like, something's going on here. The police came, they arrested them. They held them for like a couple months. But they all failed lie detectors about having prior knowledge and all this other shit. They said that they were there to document the occasion. So they clearly had prior knowledge of something because they were there to document it. They were then suddenly released and flown back to Israel, where they went on TV and bragged about the whole thing. And they were shown to be Mossad agents. Like this is as you know, it's as obvious as it gets, but even bigger than that are the put options. The fact that there were so many people that happened to put options are something you put on stocks in the hopes that they suddenly fall. And you make a lot of money when stocks fall. Instead of the normal thing where you make money when things succeed, this is you making money when you know, well-established stocks suddenly fall. And there were, you know, hundreds, thousands of put options put on things like American Airlines and, you know, different stocks that end up, you know, that took a huge hit because of everything. And these certain people made a shit ton of money on it. Why isn't that, you know, looked into? Why isn't that investigated? 9/11 was I mean, what about Oklahoma City? Do you guys know that Oklahoma City prior to 9/11 was the largest terrorist attack on American soil, and to this day is still the largest domestic terrorist attack on American soil? And the thing is, most of you, if you're my age or around my age, you've almost forgotten about Oklahoma City. If you're young, you have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about because nobody ever talks about it. If I ask you what date it was, you don't know. That date should be one of those, you know, 9/11, just, you know, kind of dates in our mind where we memorialize it and we all, you know, bow our heads and take our hats off or whatever out of respect for the people that died. And in Oklahoma City, there was like 42 babies or some shit were killed. But Oklahoma City happened on April 19th, 1995. We have a song about it called A Noble Lie. And we called it that so you'll go and look at the movie. There's a movie made called A Noble Lie that every one of you should watch. It breaks down 9/11. I mean, it breaks down Oklahoma City in ways that it's like, what's the point? What's the point of somebody like that even making that film? They know it's never going to make them a bunch of money. They know they probably get in trouble for making it. And yet they make this film that doesn't push a narrative on you, that provides you with the information that you're not provided by the mainstream, and asks you to make a decision. Does this make sense or not? Oklahoma City was such an obvious false flag. It reminded me of Kennedy, the Kennedy killing, and you know, Lee Harvey Oswald. It reminded me of 9/11 after the fact, you know. Like, it's the same script. They just go with the same script over and over again because we're too stupid to fucking call them. We're too busy fighting each other over skin color. We're too busy fighting each other over sexual identity or preference. We're too busy fighting each other because women's basketball is just as good as men's basketball. No, it's not. I saw a video a while ago where the exact floors where the plane hit was lit up saying Team 47 or something similar. I can't remember. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. They use lights in the windows to spell it. Yeah, for sure. It's like, it's all well documented. The thing is, most of the time, the conspiracy theory, the reason why it's so prominent is because it makes more sense than the narrative you're given. The 9/11 narrative just does not make sense. It's stupid, and it leaves out so much shit. But the thing is, the towers were actually the cover-up. Because the Pentagon was the real story. The fact that Rumsfeld, dual Israeli citizen, the night before gave a report on how they had lost $2.3 trillion. And they didn't know where the fuck it was. And it just so happens that the plane that hit the Pentagon, which had security towers all, cameras everywhere. There were some like 120 some cameras that all had a view of the Pentagon. Whether they were like ATM cameras or security cameras at a gas station or whatever. And within a half hour, all of the cameras had been rounded up by FBI. How did they even know all those cameras existed, let alone a coordinated plan to okay, you go here, you go here, you go here, you go here. And what about all the other cameras that were all around the Pentagon? Why did we only get 2 different security cameras that were from the same location, the same toll booth, like entrance blocker toll thing with the arm on, missing my word here, but. And the first one that they gave us, the date was wrong. It said 9/12. Am I to believe that the greatest military base in the world, the G.I. Joe fortress that is the Pentagon, not only had no defense capabilities, but also the security cameras had the wrong dates on them? That's how lax everything was? I wouldn't bother arguing with Daniel. Daniel can't admit when he's wrong. So if you're somebody that proves you won't admit when you're wrong, you're a waste of time. It's just a waste of time. Daniel actually had some respect for a minute, but then when he said that commercial airplanes fly at thousands and thousands of miles per hour, and I said, no, they fly at 500 miles per hour. And he was like, no, it's thousands and thousands. So then I looked it up, and they said that commercial airplanes fly between 460 and 620 miles per hour or some shit, with an average of about 550, 500 miles per hour. I read it. He was like, nuh-uh. He doubled down. So once that happens, you just lose all credibility. You prove that you're only trying to win. You're not trying to educate. You're not trying to get better and learn and all that. You're just in a pissing contest, and I'm not fucking interested in it. It's official. There's no Epstein list. They lie. Well, there's probably not like a list, but there is documentation. There's absolutely documentation. What I'm more concerned with, and this is when it comes to Epstein, it's really interesting how we're all so distracted by this list. But where are the Epstein tapes? They admitted that when they raided his residences, the 3 different residences, that each one of those residences had a really, really advanced control system, an Israeli security system, where they had a hidden room in the complex that was wired to all of the other rooms, both audio and visual recording. And it was like a control center deep inside each one of the residences, well hidden. And in each one of those control centers, there was a safe. And in each one of the safes, there were VHS tapes and flash drives and DVDs and all different forms of media that had the famous person's name on it, the victim's name, and how old they were. And they admitted that they found this shit. That's what's way more important than some goofy list. But this is how they operate. This is how they distract us. If the earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour and you fly with the spin of the earth at 500 miles an hour, you would never get to your destination. If you flow against the spin of the earth, yes. But stupid people want to believe that the air above the earth, around the earth, within the atmosphere, is flying at the exact same speed as or spinning at the exact same speed as the earth. It's actually really stupid. Yeah, blackmailing. Well, I mean, to some degree, I think it is blackmail, but You don't get to be in that position unless you're already proven to be one of the bad guys. Like, they're not going to let you be any sort of leader or have some sort of high-ranking position and be a risk that you might be someone like me and just start talking about shit. Look what they did with Elon. They let Elon's crazy ass in, and look what happened. Elon got pissed and outed Trump. And I mean, as far as credibility goes, in that regard, Elon is at the top of that list. For him to say that Trump was on the list and that's why it hasn't been released, and then a week and a half later we're bombing Iran and we've got floods and we've got all this big beautiful bill and all this bullshit now happening to distract. How come, especially the Trumpanzees, this is your guy? And it's not like you have definitive proof that he's not associated with Epstein. As a matter of fact, Epstein, Stephanopoulos, and Trump were known as the three amigos or the three musketeers in the New York night scene for like 10 years. They were best buddies. They all hung out together. Stephanopoulos got in trouble. Epstein is Epstein. But Trump, nope. Trump, the guy that said, is it wrong to be more attracted to your daughter than your wife? Well, if she wasn't my daughter, I'd date her. The whole Katie Johnson thing. Do you guys understand that and I said this right from the beginning. COVID was all about the Epstein, Israeli, that whole operation that is used to control the American system. I never believed in COVID. I always thought it was bullshit, and it was just it was a ploy. It was a distraction. And what people don't understand is that on March 2nd, 2020, Trump was scheduled to get examined, to have an examination of his genitals and get his DNA and all this shit, because he had been charged with this crime. He had been charged in the Katie Johnson case. He was the defendant in the Katie Johnson case. And they wanted to do an examination of him. He was scheduled to do it early in the morning. I never heard if he did or not, but I'm assuming he didn't. But this is why we had COVID. The whole Katie Johnson thing was happening March, April, May, June. And as that shit got bigger and louder, well, should have been getting louder, we were getting more and more locked down. It was the Trump administration that caught Epstein, that found all those tapes, that then, he died in a police unit that hadn't had a death in like 40 years or some shit. Not a suicide. The way that they claim he commits suicide, I guarantee you couldn't do it. It's fucking stupid. He tied a sheet around his bed, around the leg of his bed, and then around his neck, and leaned forward until he hung himself and broke his hyoid bone. How the fuck did he do that? I know that SVU, Law and Order SVU, they actually made an entire episode mirroring what that story was. And then at the end, the guy kills himself, and the cameras don't happen to be working, and the guard happens to be asleep, and even it's Tutuola and the new broad, and they're sitting there watching the TV, and the new broad's like, I bet they switched out the body. And Tutuola's like, well, we'll never know if they did, blah, blah, blah. It's just strange to me, but at the end of the day, Christians have been programmed to overlook pedophilia their whole existence. Their organization has been associated with pedophilia more than anything else. If I say the word pedophile and you don't admit that priest is one of the first words that comes to your mind, you're a liar. But you've been programmed to just accept that shit and overlook it and just I mean, not even demand accountability. You just, oh, well, the clergy got busted raping another child. Oh, well, I sure hope the football goes through the uprights. I sure hope I get that new job. I sure hope the God that gave me cancer decides that I shouldn't have cancer anymore and lets me live. Cancer is life. Seems like a really stupid thing though, right? It's this organism that kills you and essentially kills itself in order for it to thrive. Like what kind of stupid shit is that? But that's you know, you believe it. You can argue against facts in history because you don't know where those facts in history came from. Why do you think they're facts? Do you guys understand that there are places on Earth called mystery spots where what's considered to be the laws of physics don't apply, and those are on Earth. On Earth, there are places where gravity doesn't exist, and you know, all these strange things happen that don't follow don't follow the you know, the laws of physics, the laws that things are governed by. You know, every time somebody tells me, you know, well, have you read this book or have you read that book or whatever, my question is always, who published it? And you'd be surprised, or maybe not, to know that nobody ever knows that answer. Nobody even cares about that answer, strangely enough. And most of you don't understand what it takes to publish a book. You don't just write a book and then take it to the publisher and they're like, hey, I like this, and then they publish it. That's not how it works. If you write a book, you have to get what's called a literary agent, right? You have to go get you a chosen, more than likely it's a chosen, who is now your literary agent. Now, that's the first wall you have to get through. If your literary agent reads something in your book that they don't like, well, you have to change it. It's why you never see any Jewish bad guys or Israeli bad guys in any books, any stories, any movies, any TV shows. Never. They're never the bad guy in anything. They play the bad guys, but they're never an identified Jewish bad guy. Like, they love to make Arabs bad guys, and they love to make black people bad guys, and Mexicans and all that shit. But you never see any Jewish bad guys, strangely enough, right? But your literary agent decides, he's the first wall that you have to get through. Now, your literary agent will take it to different publishing houses. The thing is, each publishing house gets exclusivity. So there's like a 3-month time frame or 60 days or something, 60, 90-day time frame where each publishing house gets to decide whether they want to publish your book or not. So it's only one at a time. They present it to one, they get their 60, 90 days to decide whether they're going to publish it or not. If after that 60 or 90 days they decide not to, then they take it to another publishing house. That's how that works. But now let's say a publishing house accepts your manuscript. Well, now they have their proofreaders, their editors, they have a bunch of different people in place that go through your story and decide what stays or goes. And of course, if you're just some regular person who's just trying to get their name out there, well, you're going to let them do whatever they want to your script so you can get it published, so you can just, your artistic integrity gets thrown out the window. And you just go, well, I just want this to exist. I'll make my next book the same way. Or I'll make my next book actually say something. But now that I'm a no-name, I'm not going to say anything. And by the time you get to be a name, you already have been threatened enough. You've already been shown enough that you know not to step up. But the vast majority of manuscripts that are ever written, that's not what ends up getting published. What ends up getting published is oftentimes vastly different from what was originally written. And again, that's why you never see any of them as the bad guys. Another stroll through the trailer park. Yep. Gotta love the trailer park. I love when people make arguments that are so easily debunked that all I gotta do is just turn the camera. Because it shows you just how desperate people are. They're so desperate to try to get me to stop talking about these things that they say crazy shit. That once you figure out that they're willing to say anything, whether it's true or not, they have no credibility. But this is how desperate they are, because they don't want us goyim to know what's going on. Think about it. When was the last time you saw propaganda at its finest, controlling the weak-minded? When was the last time you saw a Jewish bad guy in anything? Like you talk about 12-year-old girls. Yeah, you know me. Always talking about 12-year-old girls. Come on, man. I love how they say stupid shit, man. Desperately trying anything they can to get us to stop talking about them. They don't care what we talk about as long as we aren't talking about them. Trump was the greatest distraction they've given us in a long time. Since Bush, really. You know, Bush was the last time they gave us a dingus, and he said stupid shit, and we were all just like, how the fuck does somebody so stupid get to be president? Because they just reuse the same scripts over and over again. They're not smart. They're not creative. That's why it's a constant renewal. It's why nowadays they're just remaking movies over and over again. Why? Because this must be one of those periods where they've kicked out as many of the goyim as they can, thinking that, oh no, we're really smart. We're capable of doing this. This happens throughout history multiple times in Hollywood. You know, there'll be those periods where they just make Western after goofy Western. They make, you know, fighting movie after fighting movie. Like some creative goyim comes up with a concept. They completely steal the concept or pay him off. I mean, what does it hurt to pay these guys out, to pay someone like me off? They manufacture the money. People always say follow the money. They print the money. If you print the money, you don't care about the money. The money isn't there for them. The money isn't, it's not even here for us. The money is here for us to not have it. That's the secret of money. It's not about who has the money. It's about us not having it, and how much they can manipulate us because we don't have it, because we just want that taste. They show us the celebrity life. They show us the politician life. They show us the bigwig life. And then we just sit here and go, man, I would do anything to have that life. God, I would do anything. It's the same stupid shit, man. But it's the proverbial carrot. You're never supposed to be able to get the carrot. But they can pay anybody off to say anything at this point. They could pay me off. They came at me with $20 million. You guys would never see me again. I'd come in, I'd make the video. Oh, well, I guess I was wrong about everything. The Israelis are in the right, and everybody else is, you know, the earth is round, and Jesus is real, and, you know, I wish all of you a good day. See you later, and that'd be it. I'd be done. If I could secure my family forever, hey, I'd be done. $20 million is generational wealth. And I know people, hey, that's hypocritical. Yeah, well, the vast majority of you don't seem to want to change it. I don't say anything that people don't know or can't find themselves. Everything I talk about is very, very, very easily found surface kind of bullshit. It doesn't take some super detective to get where I'm at. Literally, I use Wikipedia for just about everything, right? And so many of you are dumb enough to say, Wikipedia is not a good source. It's the #1 source of information in the world. Well, anybody can edit Wikipedia. No, they can't. You might have the illusion, just like you have this illusion that you vote and that matters. When clearly in 2016, 2.7 million, 2,700,000 more people voted for Hillary than they did Trump, and Trump still won. It's just an illusion. This illusion of control, this illusion of power. And I forgot what I was saying, why I went down that road. Well, whatever. Happens sometimes. Argue with facts and not emotion. Can't argue with emotion. I mean, I do have a lot of emotion. I'm very passionate about what I'm saying. What I believe. And like I say, most of you don't want to believe. You know this shit. It's all right there. Oh yeah, the Wikipedia thing. You think you can edit Wikipedia? You can't. Let me just prove something to you guys real quickly, like I always tend to do. I haven't done it yet this time because we haven't gone into Wikipedia yet, but for all of you that think you can just edit Wikipedia, let me explain to you that you can't. Israeli news.
In conjunction with My Israel, has arranged instruction day for wiki editors. The goal of the day is to teach people how to edit.
You got your there wrong, Dakota.
Which is the #1 source of information today in the world. As a way of example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla, we want to be there. We want to be the guys who influence what is written there, how it's written, and to ensure that it's balanced and Zionist in nature.
I came here to learn.
So I mean, it's almost like he was trying to make the video for me to be able to use it. For example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla, we want to be there. We want to influence the way people think about it and make sure it has a Zionist perspective. It's Zionist in nature. That is Naftali Bennett. That is at the time, he's a future prime minister of Israel. Today, he's the previous prime minister. Well, the previous elected prime minister, because from 2019 to 2022, Israel had 6 prime ministers. They had Netanyahu, then it was Benny Gantz, defense minister, then it was Netanyahu, then it was this guy Naftali Bennett for a little over a year, like 20 days longer than a year. Then that guy steps down. I don't even understand how that works, how you just get to step down from being prime minister. But he steps down, and then then Yair Lapid takes over until November, when they put Netanyahu, Bezalel Smotrich, Itmar Ben-Gvir, they put this coalition in place, and now Netanyahu can't be voted out of office. He will be the prime minister until he dies or quits. But that guy I just showed you was Naftali Bennett, the Israeli prime minister, who is acknowledging that they control Wikipedia. So that means on the pages where you can edit, because there are lots of pages that are locked and they can't be edited. But on the pages that you can edit, your edit triggers the system that then has one of the editors look at the edit you made. And if that edit fits the Zionist perspective, they'll keep it. If not, it disappears. I literally read the same article, the same Wikipedia entries every day. I tell you guys about Team Jorge. Might as well just do it now, huh? Because it's easier than trying to explain it. Just reading it is easier than trying to explain it. So Strangely enough, as many times as I've looked up Team Jorge, it doesn't populate when I put in team. So Team Jorge on the Wikipedia page, because I don't show my sources. Team Jorge is the name given to an outfit of Israeli contractors specialized in the use of malign cyber activities, including hacking, sabotage, and bot farm run social media disinformation campaigns. The group was exposed in February 2023 after an award-winning undercover operation by journalists from Israel and France as part of a consortium of investigative journalists coordinated by Forbidden Stories. The organization has been active since at least 2015 and boasts of having manipulated 33 presidential elections worldwide, many of them in Africa, many meaning 4 or more, and in 27 cases with successful results. Their activities were revealed following a 2022 sting operation in Tel Aviv carried out by 3 undercover journalists who posed as prospective clients and filmed their interactions with Tal, T-A-L, Hanan, H-A-N-A-N, the group's leader and former Israeli Special Forces operative, in which he explained the inner workings of the organization. According to Tal Hanan, the group's leader, Team Jorge has existed for more than 2 decades and has been engaged in propaganda and disinformation activities in more than 30 countries. However, its first documented activity dates back to 2015. Their services have been available to government intelligence agencies, political campaigns, and private companies that wish to covertly manipulate public opinion. One of the organization's primary tools, is the part where you really have to pay attention, is a software package called Advanced Impact Media Solutions, or AIMS. The software automates centralized control of thousands of fake social media profiles on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, and all that. It's literally them telling you that they have a system, and if you actually read the articles about it, they have a system that's capable of creating 30,000, not even bots. They're more considered avatars because the technology is more advanced than anybody's ever seen. And it's able to act as though it's a person, at least in some regards. Right? I mean, this is concrete. I don't know what else kind of shit you need to hear, but they have this system that automates control of 30,000 bots that they can use to attack people with. Or bolster them. If they want you to be famous, then they send their... And remember, Team Jorge is just one Israeli Black Ops organization. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of Black Ops organizations based out of Israel using this same technology. This was just the one that got exposed. And who knows, they might even expose it on purpose. To show you, to give you that thing in the back of your head that reminds you that, hey, or for someone like me to find it. Because this wasn't mainstream news. The only reason I know about this is because for quite some time I used to put Israel into the Google machine and then read the news that popped up every day. And I just happened to do that on the day where certain websites were talking about it. Multiple. But for some reason, this story where they acknowledge that Israel controls social media, for some reason that wasn't a story worth picking up, right? So that's one part of it. The other part of it is something called act.il. And the act.il page is actually locked. Can't edit this page. Act.il was a social networking service used by supporters of Israel to oppose online anti-Israel content, such as the BDS movement, boycott, divestments, and sanctions. Its activities were referred to as a, quote, online propaganda campaign and, quote, a virtual situation room for pro-Israeli experts. ActIL, pay attention, directed its users to missions, quote, missions, to like, comment on, and share pro-Israel material on social media. It also asked users to flag, report, and respond to criticisms of Israel. Users were guided on how to respond, which might entail writing a reply using the provided talking points, right? Maybe that's why they all sort of say the same dumb shit. Unless you believe all these random people just happen to have the exact same thought process and make the same spelling mistakes and type with the same grammatical, the same way. They type everything in the same, with the same speech patterns and shit. You just think all these people are just the same like that? Or sharing or upvoting an allied comment. The app also provided users with ready-made memes promoting Israel's perspective for them to share. Check this out. By completing missions, users earned points, unlocked badges, and had their scores displayed on leaderboards. So, I show you how Naftali Bennett, the prime minister and an Israeli operative, brags about how Israel controls Wikipedia so that it has a Zionist perspective. Then I read you from Wikipedia the expose about Team Jorge, the group that was shown to infiltrate social media and use a sophisticated bot system to attack critics. Then I show you the other entry that talks about how they encourage and reward their own for doing this exact thing, to try to go to pages like mine and disrupt. As far as proof goes, what other proof do you need? I mean, how much more proof can I show you? I show you way more proof than the Bible does. That's for damn sure. Bro, does he think subs stand for submarines on social media? Well, considering I don't say subs, I say submarines. Good one, Pluto. No, I don't bump substances other than what everyone else does, aka caffeine, nicotine. Haven't had any today, though. The desperation in the system. How come when I bring this up, none of these fucking profiles even address it? Or they'll do the thing like, oh yeah, I'm a bot, beep, beep, boop. You know, they'll do that dumb shit. How come nobody addresses, like, how fucking weird that is? Did you guys know that shit? Did you guys know Israel openly controls not just Wikipedia, but social media as well? I tune every day and I never saw anyone actually call Guy stupid. And even if someone did insult Guy, it's not like he hasn't made it clear what he thinks of the chat. There you go. No, they call me stupid all the time. They say all kinds of stupid shit. Like, they love to tell me that I'm wrong, but never how or why or, you know, what exactly I'm getting wrong, why they're here in the first place. If you disagree with me and you're not willing to engage in the conversation, in the discussion about whatever it is you disagree, you're not even willing to say what you disagree with, then what are you even doing here to begin with? If you try to like insult me by saying it's because I'm so entertaining, well, I mean, considering you're on social media, you're on YouTube, which has endless other options for you to look at, along with the Hulus and the Facebooks and the Instagrams and all these other platforms you could be using, as well as the TV, as well as DVDs, as well as going outside and doing like anything, cleaning, playing sports, going for walks, exercising, anything like that. You choose me for hours on end, and I'm supposed to be like, ow, that hurts my feelings. Are you crazy? These bots are so dumb. Proving a point is called geeking or tweaking, and that's crazy dumb. Well, I mean, again, it's just desperation. They're desperately trying to shoot the messenger. They know that there are people that will see this and kind of be like, hey, wait a minute. This is sort of shaking my foundations a little bit. I'm already questioning things, but I haven't had a good enough perspective to be able to justify that. And now this guy's providing fucking proof. Like, holy shit, what do I do here? Oh, wait, he's crazy. Yep, that's what it is. I don't have to listen because he's crazy. He's on crack. That's what it is. I don't have to listen because he's on crack. Like, they're providing the excuse for people that want it. People will always hear, read, know, find what they want to find. And so if somebody is looking for a reason to...
Hear me?
What?
It's meth. Get it right.
Yes. Well, sometimes it's crack.
Yeah. It's mostly meth.
No, they've been going with crack a lot lately.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want a bagel?
Sure.
I did let him play a few minutes early because he was in the bathtub.
Sure. Sure. Take another Bing rip. The people, like, again, you know it's a fucking, it's a Bing, yes. You know it's a fucking, the same bot profile, the same centralized control mechanism when people, person after person, calls this a bong. Nobody that smokes calls this a bong, and most people that don't smoke don't call it a bong.
Let alone a bang.
Right. Well, O is right next to I, so they might have just messed up a little bit. Or the thing changed it.
Or they're just dumbass.
That could be it too. You never provide any evidence. You just ramble endlessly. Yep. Yep. Reading Wikipedia isn't providing evidence. Showing you the video of Naftali Bennett saying it, that's not evidence. Just rambling and endlessly. Yep. That's why you're here. Like, it's just so stupid. Proof is everywhere. He always shows it. And it's really funny because America is giving Israel the biggest sloppy toppy in front of the world, and these people have the audacity to call you nonsense. Right. But it's because most of these profiles are Israeli bots. Like what else can I do? By the way, if you're watching, like, share, and sub. We have 13 watchers and 13 likes. Have you ever seen anything work that way? Have you ever seen a feed that has as many likes or more than it does viewers? This is not how social media works. Come on, people. You have to be better than this. Now we have 15 likes and 12 viewers. Where have you ever seen that before? I'm here because YouTube puts you in the algorithm and I just have to click on it. Anything that YouTube puts in front of me, I click on it. I don't pick and choose what I watch. I just watch whatever YouTube says for me to watch, and then I sit there until the video's over. Sometimes it really sucks. Sometimes YouTube tells me to watch that video where the person just stares at the camera for a couple hours, and what can I do? I have to watch it. I also have a really hard time with titles. I don't understand what titles mean. You know, I went to Burger King and I saw a guy get a chicken sandwich and I lost my fucking mind. This is Burger King. What do you mean there's French fries here? You should only have burgers. You're the king of burgers. You only serve burgers. I saw a Slipknot concert. I bought the tickets because I thought somebody was going to teach me how to tie knots and things. And I just figured, Slipknot, that's a kind of knot. So maybe it's going to be a demonstration on how to tie different knots. And I get there, and it's a band playing music. Same thing happened with the Smashing Pumpkins. I bought a ticket to the Smashing. I wanted to see people smashing pumpkins around. There were no gourds anywhere. What the hell? I don't understand how titles work. So fucking stupid. And the funny thing is, the people that constantly bring up the submarines, they don't actually want to have the conversation. They're just trying to get me to stop talking about Israel. Because if you wanted to have the submarine conversation, it's been had. Go look up the Submarines Aren't Real parts 1 through 9. We go well into submarines not being real. You could get into that. You could make all the comments you want. You have the opportunity to pause the video, to look things up, to do everything you want to do to become, to come up with the best debunk you could possibly come up with. And they don't. They don't. So because of yesterday and the pedophile that was on here, Dr. Stephen Jaffe, or Jaff, whatever. I looked up this really horrible story out of Israel. And it was on the Israel Hayom, Hayom, website. It's made by Israelis. It's out of Israel. The everybody interviewed is Israeli and Jewish, and it's all them. There's no goyim interference whatsoever. And it was an article called Bottom of Darkness. And it was about the ritual sexual abuse that is extremely prevalent in Israel. And apparently it's so much worse than people realize. And that's, we had the one guy out himself yesterday. Hey, free Palestine. I agree with you to some degree. I think free Palestine is a phrase that they give us that we're allowed to say, because I think at the end of the day, the people that say free Palestine really mean fuck everything chosen. But you're not allowed to say that. So we say free Palestine, but how do you say free Palestine to the Lebanese? How do you say it to the Syrians, the Iranians, the Iraqis, and the Egyptians? Everybody that is feeling the wrath of Israel, it's not free Palestine. And really, nobody clearly cares about Palestine, or at least, they're locked into their Abraham Accords, so they can't. But Iran didn't do anything to help the Palestinians. And what does free Palestine even mean? Are we talking about pre-2023, pre-20, 2016, 17? I don't know. Pre-2006, pre-1983, pre-1967, pre-1948, pre-1919? Like what free Palestine are we talking about? If we're talking about a free Palestine so that a religious, cult, a Muslim cult, a Christian cult, whatever it is, can take it over, that's not free Palestine. And like I say, prior to Israel, it was British Mandate Palestine, so it was still something else. So I'm not really sure what free Palestine even supposed to mean. And that, free Palestine isn't what's going to affect me anyway. What we need to do is end the cult, the disgusting cult that violates children and believes women's vaginas are so disgusting they need to be cleansed once a month in their mikvahs, and believes that themselves to be born superior to the rest, that everything that isn't them is goyim. Dogs, cats, cars, chairs, tables, us. We're all on the same level, cattle. We're all just there to service them. And they all believe that when the Messiah shows up, that they all get 2,800 Gentile slaves. It's part of their belief structure, which I don't think is a literal thing, because there's no way any of these little weasels could handle, hey, you, number 1634. Come over here and rub my back. Like, that's not how, nobody's gonna fall in line to these pieces of shit, right? I think what they mean by that is, in order to maintain the incredible lives that they have, Cool. Okay. Um, um, sorry, just got distracted. But it's about ending the cult that controls our lives just as much as they're committing genocide. They control our everything. And unless you're willing to look into it, you probably won't accept it, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know how you cannot accept it. Look at TV. Look at Hollywood. Look at everything you watch. I always play the game with my wife. Do you think they're Jewish? Do you think he's Jewish? Do you think and it's yes. You know, 0.183% of the world population and between 2 and 3% of the US population seemingly dominates Hollywood, dominates government, dominates, entertainment, dominates all these certain fields. And the things they dominate the most are the things where the least amount of work is done. Like, does anybody think a politician or the president does a job you couldn't handle? Do you really think that what he does, do you think the president sits around at the desk in the Oval Office and he's like, time to balance the budget? Gets his little green fucking, green visor on, the see-through visor, and he's got his adding machine, and he just keeps pulling the lever, and then at the end, okay, it looks like everything balances out. Betty, can you bring in the foreign policy stuff? Yes, Mr. President. And she comes walking in and hands him his do you really think that's what happens? Betty, can you bring me all the road maps and everything? I'd like to talk about the transportation industry and how we can, I want to look up cars. Can you bring me everything that has to do with cars and gas mileage and all that? I just want, hey, can you bring me in the grocery report? Because this is actually Biden. Can you bring in the grocery report? Me and Kamala want to raise the prices on everything. And then him and Kamala sit there and they're like, okay, avocados cost $1.99. Let's make it $2.59. Like, do you really think that's what's happening with these actors? They're actors. The majority of the time, they're learning their script. When they're not learning their script, like Trump, they're out playing golf. They're out having luncheons and dinners and going to UFC events and shit. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. But, as I was saying, we were talking yesterday about this article and how just incredibly prominent child exploitation materials and ritual sexual abuse of children is in Israel. It's horrifying, the picture that's painted. And one of the things that was said was they reenacted the binding of Isaac. So I wanted to read what the binding of Isaac is. Didn't realize why that happened. Not many people realize the Bible forbids charging interest. So as non-Christians, the Jewish people would often take the role of financiers in history. Well, they were called the court Jews in a lot of cases. They were the money changers. And a lot of times they were associated, the court Jew was associated with the king. And when the king would die, the court Jew would supposedly be killed. Who believes it? But the money changers. And basically, they use their network because this is one of those things that adds to the mystery that nobody talks about. Everywhere you went had different money. Think about that. What mint did they have back in the day? What mint did all these different little principalities and towns and lords and manors and what mint did they have available to them that they were able to produce thousands and thousands, millions of coins, of detailed coins with different faces and different information on them? How did everyone have access to a mint back then? You might say, oh, it was the blacksmith. Do you understand how much work it would take a simple blacksmith to make the money for any one community? You got to make the molds and then pour it in there and then pop like that. That's not how that works. So how did they make all those different coins? I mean, like when most people don't realize, like in the 1800s, Italy looked like the United States. It was a bunch of different, individual states, basically, that each had their own leadership and all that shit. Like it was very much, again, like the United States. It wasn't until they pulled the resources and crushed all these different individual groups. Hang on a second. It wasn't until they crushed all the different groups and formulated this one United States of Italy, the Italy that we have today. So each one of these places, these states, also had all these individual little towns and shit, and they all had their own money. And if you wanted to spend money, if you came from another place, because again, back then travel was just super easy. If you came from, say, Europe or somewhere, or Africa, or, France, and you went to Spain, or anything, like hundreds and hundreds of miles were always easily traversed back then for some reason. But your money, you couldn't spend your money there. You had to change your money over, and that's where the Jews came in. They were the money changers. And you would go to them, and they would give you, they would say, okay, this your money from this place is worth this much money from this place. And they just decided that, again, this is the narrative we're given. If you believe any of that bullshit anymore, you're just foolish. Like, it's clear that something drastic happened just before our history really picks up. Some say it's 1776. I don't know about that, but it's somewhere in the late 17s, early 18s that some sort of cataclysm happened and reset things. There's no doubt in my mind anymore that that's the case. And when you understand that that's what's happened, and there's no mention of it, there's no mention of Tartaria, even though Tartaria was a huge part of our history. They clearly, if you look at old maps and shit, Tartaria was everywhere. What is now Russia was Tartaria, and it's very well documented. But I mean, all you have to do is just look at the architecture. Look at the narratives we're given and see, does it all make sense to you? When you hear about like Napoleon times, or you hear about like even the Civil War and shit, and you hear about these tremendous battles, or these, this person had 300,000 troops and blah, blah, blah. Where did those people come from? And how did they maintain them? How did they feed all those people back then? What kitchens were set up that could feed all these soldiers? Where did they get the animals and shit? Like think about it. They weren't thinking about sustainability back then, according to narrative. Even Jesus had a whole shit ton of followers that they never talk about how they ate, except for one time when they couldn't eat. They didn't have anything to eat. So there's that narrative that Jesus fed everyone. It's weird because it's not like people think they had 2 fish and then Jesus just turned it into a bunch of fish. They had 5 loaves and Jesus just turned it into a bunch of loaves. That's not what the story says. The story is that Jesus tells his disciples, go ahead and eat, and then put your fucking scraps, put the crust of your bread and the scraps from the fish in the basket, and then the people will eat from that. They don't really go into detail as to how Jesus ended up feeding everybody. But the next morning, Jesus is gone because he was mad that they needed him to feed them. His people, his posse, they were hungry. But nobody talks about, like, how did all those people eat to begin with? You know, the Confederacy lasted just over 4.5 years. The Civil War was just over 4.5 years. Where did they get all the uniforms and shit? How did they get all those people together? How did they collect all of the people from all these little mountain towns and all this other shit? How did they do that? They'll talk about how the army marched from here to there. One of my favorite narratives they give us is the Battle of Gettysburg, right? So I didn't realize that Gettysburg was actually in southern Pennsylvania. But it was in August. I believe it's August. I think it's August. It's in the summer, I know that. But so August in southern Pennsylvania is just balls fucking hot. It's humid as can be. It's hot as fuck. And when you see these old military uniforms, they're like wool. They're thick wool. And they're always really small. They say, well, the people were a lot smaller back then. You never see uniforms for people our size. Never. But so the narrative is that all of these soldiers from all over marched to Gettysburg, where again, how did they feed all those soldiers and shit? But they say on the first day, 20,000 soldiers died. On both sides, but the majority were the Southern. And I remember one time we were doing our Civil War unit in school, and it was one of those stories where it's like, oh, look, here's a note that was written by a soldier on the battlefield. My dearest beloved, I regret to inform you that I have been mortally wounded in the throes of battle to defend our beautiful Confederacy. And I only regret is that I shall never see the sun grace your beautiful face again. Just know that I love you. They all wrote so poetically back then, for some strange reason. But and it's funny too, because like you're told that women weren't allowed to further their education back then. Yet you're also told that the majority of the teaching was done by the women, by the mothers. So the mothers who had to make all the meals from scratch, had to wake up at like 3 a.m. to start making the fucking muffins and shit like that they would eat. Had all the house chores to do and all that shit. She was also teaching the children, you know, algebra, English, history. I don't know where she got her lesson plans from or her materials, but the corner store had them, I guess, I don't know. But all these women who weren't allowed to be educated up until the school systems were developed are the main educators in history? How does that even work? But anyway, I digress. All of these soldiers, they all come together at Gettysburg, and again, they all had to march there. But the first day there's 20,000. So I asked the teacher, where did we get all those notes and shit from the battlefield? And my teacher told me that at nighttime there was a truce. There was a truce between each side, and they would clear the battlefields at nighttime. So, at nighttime, by the aid of candlelight, torches, I don't fucking know. They went around the battlefield, like if you could only imagine how dark it was back when there were no cities, no street lights, nothing. They were just out in this field. It was fucking pitch black. I mean, even if there was a full moon, it still wasn't very light outside. And yet by firelight, they were able to distinguish between the soldiers in the blue and the soldiers in the dark gray, all covered in blood and all this other body parts, all that shit. But they would clear the battlefield. So they would march in. They then got into the battle where 20,000 died. They spent the night clearing the battlefield of 20,000 people. Then the next day, they fought again, and another 8,000 people died. Then that night, they cleared the battlefield. And then the next day, the last 2,000 or so died. Does that even make any sense to you? And so what it gets even better is that, like, how do you dispose of 30,000 fucking dead bodies in August? If you've ever seen an animal that had been killed on the side of the road, what happens is, after the first day or two, the animal expands. It gets like huge. It turns into like this big balloon until the orifices break and it all leaks out. All the fluid leaks out, and poop and piss and blood and shit leaks out of their orifices, and they flatten out. That's what dead bodies do in the blistering heat, humidity of summertime. Imagine what a big pile of 30,000 bodies looks like. Imagine the stench. This is before we had refrigeration. This is before we had all the modern day conveniences. So you ask yourself, what did they do with them? Well, according to the narrative, they buried all of the bodies in individual graves that were just shallow individual graves that were all marked with each soldier. And then a year later, they came back, dug up all the bodies, and then moved them to Arlington or wherever their final resting place was. Get my text? Oh, I sent it to the other phone. Just think about how insane that is. Yeah. Whatever. Just think about how insane that shit is. Think about what they want you to believe. Sorry. I mean, do you guys not get like how ridiculous that narrative is? Can you imagine whose job it was to go back a year later and dig up all the fucking dead bodies and then move them? Like this is the narrative that they came up with because they had to account for, well, where did all those bodies go? There's no mass graves anywhere. Oh yeah, we came back a year later and dug them all up and transported them. With what system? It's calling someone else insane while you sat in your bedroom watching their live stream says more about you, to be honest. Exactly. These random profiles that are so mad, they don't tell you why they're here. What motivates them to be here on the page where the guy normally talks about how we should kill pedos and eliminate the J control scheme. Who is going to be motivated to attack me? Who thinks that shit is unimportant? Watch, none of them will actually fucking say why they're here. Why are you here? Tell me what reason why you waste so many days, so many hours every single day begging for my attention, only to then get it and make yourself look stupid. Like, tell me, how does that make sense? How many people do that? How many people? I love the people that go, oh, I'm just trolling. Oh, so your life is so bad that you look for other people talking about good things and try to interrupt those things? Like, you could get attention by saying intelligent things, and then we could still have the back and forth. Even if you disagree, it could at least be intelligent. But that's not your style. You just want to say dumb shit and then basically make my point for me, right? What motivates you to do that? Look at capital letters. Go back to school and get a real education. You mean indoctrination? I don't know where you think I'm getting the information from. It's not making it up. It's the system that they want us to learn from. I'm just smarter than you, so I ask questions you don't ask. I ask questions that not only do you not ask, that you're not smart enough to ask them, you're not smart enough to answer them either. But anyway, wait, I've gotten myself totally... Yeah, Wikipedia is not a good source. Wikipedia isn't a good source. Duh. Right? We'll do it again just because Wikipedia is not a good source of information. I'm sure you know better than, I don't know, a prime minister.
Moetzet Yesha, in conjunction with My Israel, has arranged instruction day for wiki editors. The goal of the day is to teach people how to edit in Wikipedia, which is the #1 source of information today in the world. As a way of example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla, we want to be there. We want to be the guys who influence what is written there, how it's written, and to ensure that it's balanced and Zionist in nature.
I came here to learn.
Seriously. I don't believe that Wikipedia is 100% true, but I do know, according to Naftali Bennett, who is a former Israeli prime minister, that Wikipedia is the narrative that, at the very least, Israel wants us to know. And if you try talking shit about the Wikipedia source, well, what source do you suggest? Yeah, the academic is always a secondary source. No? You can use it academically. It's not like it's completely like thrown up. Wikipedia is generally like a summarization. So when it comes to something like Team Jorge, there are multiple articles that you can read that have actually a lot more details to them. But Wikipedia is the Israeli summary of the event or of the thing that you're supposed to know. But the thing is, again, this belief that anybody can edit Wikipedia is just a false one. It's false. If you're even allowed to edit the page, which a lot of the pages, especially the pages referring to Israel or referring to history, they're locked. They have the little lock thing. You can't edit it anyway. But if you can, the edit that you make is flagged by the system, and then the real people, the editors that Israel taught how to edit things to have a balanced and Zionist perspective, they see if the edit that you're trying to make goes with the narrative, they'll allow it. If it doesn't, it gets removed. I've read the Team Jorge page so many times, I almost know it by heart. And the trolls, they also know that I'm going to read the Team Jorge page. And they've bragged numerous times about, go read it. We made an edit. We'll show you we made an edit. By the time I get to it, that edit's gone. Usually that edit will be like, Guy Williams is stupid or something like that. But by the time I get to it, it's already gone. If you make an edit that doesn't go with the system, it usually takes about a minute or two. And then it's gone. But acting like it's not a good source of information is just stupid. Like again, why would anybody come to a Wikipedia or come to a YouTube channel and sit here and try to tell the person doing the channel what they would do or what they like? Do it then. You should make your own channel. The funny thing is, I've challenged these idiots time and time again. If you want to get any sort of legitimacy, if you want to get any sort of credibility here, make a video of yourself doing what I'm doing, but about how stupid I am, or how bad I am, or how wrong I am about this, that, or the other. Make a video where you show your face talking, proving you're a real person. 5-minute video. I'm sure you could come up with shit to talk about for 5 minutes, right? Make a 5-minute video, call it Guy Williams Sucks, and then I'll play it on my feed. I'll do what I do with the Naphtali Bennett video, where I'll make a video, or I'll show the people that it's a real person talking shit, and this is what you're gonna make the points about what I'm wrong about and all that stuff. We'll look at your video. I've been saying this for over a year, and not one of them has done it. The closest was very recently, within a week or so, where they came on here all, go look, go search it, we made the video. I go and look, and they've made a 5-minute compilation video. How long do you think it would take them to make a compilation video where they have a bunch of different clips from previous videos of mine? So they have all of my shit saved, and they have it all marked. At this point, I say this thing. They clip all of those videos. They write on them sometimes. You know, they use the thing. So they edit the video. And spliced in with my videos, with clips of me saying, you know, little pieces. Like they definitely don't let the video run and show how stupid they are, or let me make the point that's being made. They just take these little clips and then they spliced it in with a bunch of pro-Israel propaganda. It takes 5 minutes to make a 5-minute video where you're talking to the screen. How long does it take to make a compilation video with not only all the clips from me, but then all the individual clips from all over the web with the pro-Israel stuff? And then they're dumb enough to be like, look, we did it. And then it's that. If that doesn't prove what I've been saying the whole time way more than anything else, like that's literally one of the greatest like wins I've gotten in all of this, is them making this dumbass video proving just how important I am and how stupid they are. I'm so important. They obsess over me so much that they have all these videos cataloged and these different pieces, you know, clipped where I said something they didn't like. White guys are mad because of their tiny peepees. You know, that one seems to really bother them, that I keep pointing out their tiny penises. It's actually pretty telling how angry it makes them. Why would you get angry? If it wasn't true, why would you get angry? Especially if you're just some random, like you're not even identified. I'm talking about any random person, but you get upset and you focus in on it numerous times. Oh, look, we have a pedo flag flyer. You fly the pedo flag, you get the fuck out of here. Joined 2 years ago, no subscribers. What a surprise. What a surprise. A page with no subscribers. Fly in the pedo flag. Oh, Lewis, you're mental, of course. Look at Lewis is mental because he makes points you can't fucking answer. That makes him mental. This is what they do. Instead of actually answering for anything, addressing anything, this is the stupid shit that they do. They can't do anything else. There is no argument. You can't argue for why genocide is okay. You can't argue for why pedophilia is okay. You can't argue for why that the chosen slavery is okay. It's not. Like, imagine I say, this guy's flying a pedo flag. So you go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fly a similar flag. It's not going to be the exact pedo flag, but I'm going to fly a flag. If I'm talking about pedos flying flags, and then you start flying a flag, what does that say about you? Who thinks along those lines? Who's dumb enough to think, if you open the books on Israel, you demonize Israel, is a good argument. In 2022, when the UN was talking about, what's going on with this Israel stuff, we need to investigate, we need to go in there. This temporary occupation is sure seeming like a colonization. Israel's response was, you can't do that because if you open up the books on Israel, you demonize us. Do any of you think that way? Do any of you think that if you open up the books on you, that'll make you look really bad? I don't think so. You can't argue pedophilia is okay. Chat source? Right. Yes, I'm not trans. I had to look it up, so why should I know? It's unimportant. I don't know who you're talking about. Matt sees the trans flag for the first time, apparently. Again, why would anybody start flying a flag when I say something about pedos flying flags? Lewis, source is common sense. It's not okay to mess with kids. He's on our team. That's what he's saying. He's saying it's ridiculous that they ask for a source for why I say you can't argue for pedophilia. And they're like, what makes you say that? Matt gets the most respect from me because he's clearly not watching Fox News. Well, I don't know if he's actually 12, but their mentality is 12. Have you ever seen a video with the settlers? Have you ever seen anybody interview a settler? Have you ever seen how these people operate, how they live, what they look like? You seen that video where they're fake crying? Oh, that one's funny as shit. I gotta show that one real quick. Maybe that's not it. Let's go. Oh, why can't I find this video? They're fucking ridiculous. Man, why can't I find this one? It's fucking hilarious. Here's one where Israeli settlers verbally abuse and spit at Christian nuns in Jerusalem. Just walking by spitting at people. When asked what they can do to stop them from spitting on people, I think it's Ben Gavir said, well, Israelis have been spitting on Christians for thousands of years. That was the end of it. I can't believe this is fucking, I can't find this. Here's a video where Israeli TikTokers mocking embattled Palestinians goes viral. This is who the Israelis are. Got a no teeth and draw unibrows and mustaches. Yeah. Oh, these are the best people. They're the victims. These are the victims. Look at these disgusting pigs getting their kids to do it. That baby, they cut the head off of it. They're not showing this, but they cut. Look, this guy's like, look, I have running water. I have electricity. You don't. Ha ha. Like say that baby, they cut the head off of it. It's a doll, but they cut the head off of it. This is them making fun of these people that they're committing genocide against. These are just the average people doing it. They're just the worst. Literally, they are the fucking worst. Man, I'm trying to find that one video. Maybe if I Google it, it'll pop up. Damn. It's so funny. I want to show you guys and I can't find it. Can't find it. Oh well. Damn. Look at how fucking crazy this is. Look at the comment section. Look at how desperate they are. They're just desperately trying to get you to be angry, to rile you up, to fuck up your shit, man. That's all they're doing. If you're angry and you're amped up, you're not thinking clearly. That's why boxers always have to maintain a cool head. Don't fight with emotion. Because emotion clouds things. Yep. I work 40 hours a week and I'm in college full time, 12 units. Yet you're on my feed day after day for hours on end, regardless of what time I go live. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes so much sense. And of course, this is a page that was made 10 years ago and has 2 subscribers. Who buys into this bullshit anymore? If you're watching and you're real, like, share, and sub. If you hate what I'm doing, dislike it. Dislike the fuck out of this. You're a big pedo supporter. You're a big, big genocide fan. But I forgot I wanted to do this today, and I haven't been able to get to it yet. Binding of Isaac. Because that was what was said. That was the story that kept getting brought up. Shit. Why is it showing me video games? The Binding of Isaac video game? is a 2011 roguelike action adventure game designed by independent developers, blah, blah, blah. The game's title and plot are inspired by the biblical story of the Binding of Isaac. The Binding of Isaac, or simply The Binding, is a story from chapter 22 of the book of Genesis in the Hebrew Bible. In the biblical narrative, God orders Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac on the mountain called Jehovah Jireh in the region of Moriah. Right, God wants you to sacrifice your own kid. And you want to believe in that God, right? You want to believe in the God that wants you to sacrifice your kid. It's like a moil, right? How many of you, if I offered you the job, if I said, look, you have to perform Matitza Bepay once a year. Once a year, you have to do the cutty slicey sucky on a baby. And in doing so, I'll give you $1 million. $1 million a year, you just got to do it once. How many of you would be happy to take that job where you got to put a bloody baby penis in your mouth? I'm sure there are some of you that would, but not me. That's fucking unbelievably disgusting. I don't know how anybody could possibly do that. And it's sort of the same thing. Like God's gonna offer you. Well, I'm gonna give you a big, nice house, because the Bible is full of stories where a Jewish guy builds some sort of God phone and is able to talk to God. Nobody else can do it, but they can do it. They build these magical altars, and then God comes down and talks to them and generally tells them that they should go into a town or go somewhere, just be like, hey, God said all of this is mine now. And that's basically a story that just repeats itself over and over again when it comes to the Bible. God says, this is mine, and everything I can see from here to there, that's mine. God told me. I made an altar, and then God came down. Oh yeah, you know how my name was Abram? Well, it's Abraham now. God told me. Oh yeah, and wife, your name was Sarai. Now you're gonna be called Sarah, okay? God said so. And I know we're in our 90s, but you're gonna get pregnant. God's gonna give you a pregnancy. It's interesting too, because in the Bible you hear about all these people that lived these hundreds and hundreds of years, but they don't tell you that the people just aged slowly. No, by the time they were 90, they were 90-year-old old men. They just ended up living another couple hundred years somehow. Imagine how much work. Like, you ever seen a 90-year-old? Yikes. By the time you're 900, your balls have to be just dragging on the fucking floor. You know, 90 is not pretty. But apparently, God changed Abram's name to Abraham and his wife's name to Sarah from Sarai, and also made Sarai pregnant, and she was in her 90s.
That's awfully selfish.
It's just fucking stupid. Well, it gets better, because we're doing the Binding of Isaac, where God ordered Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac on the mountain called Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Jireh, in the region of Moriah. Because God orders you to kill Nicholas, so you're just gonna jump down there and God, sorry, Nick. Sorry, buddy.
Smite me all you want, motherfucker.
Sorry, God's gonna give me a town and a bunch of he asses and she asses, because that's what they refer to them as in the Bible. So I gotta kill you, buddy. Sorry about that. I love you. I do. I really do. But God said so. And imagine that like being acceptable. Well, God told me to. We don't accept that in today's society. Unless, of course, maybe if it was a Jay doing it, we'd probably accept it. And we think that Muslims are horrible when they do honor killings. But the blood libel stuff, we're just not supposed to talk about that. The blood libel where they kill Christian children, drain their blood and use that blood for their rituals. Yeah, let's not talk about that. It's only been an accusation, a steady accusation, for supposedly over 1,000 years. So what? Killing children, bleeding them dry, using their blood in rituals, baking it into the matzah. Yeah. Baking blood into their bread. Makes so much sense. I don't know why I'm such a hateful person who just has hate in his heart for this wonderful, beautiful cult. Not cult, religion. Sorry, religion. There's something wrong with me because I question these things. I will. Opposition is bad when some of your own people are against you. They love to say you fell for stuff. They love to say, oh, look, you're mad now. They're desperate to try to affect you. Because what we're doing affects them so much. They're so greatly affected by, being outed as the pedos that they are and the disgusting cult and all that. It hurts. We're just dumb goyim. We're not supposed to. If we do think this way, we're not supposed to say it. How dare we say shit like that? If you think that way, you keep it to yourself, you dumb goyim. Don't you spread information. Don't you tell people. Don't you talk out of turn, you dumb goyim. That's how they view you. That's how they view what you see. So when what you're saying actually affects them and hurts them, they're desperately trying to get you back. They're trying, and they're too stupid, right? And obviously the pedo stuff really hurts them. They don't want to be outed for that, so they try to say that's you. Yeah, you, the guy that has dedicated his whole life to fucking ensuring that pedos are killed and giving up any chance of a career, even though his music is well liked, which you should go get for free. www.the-bilderberg-group.com. Link will be in the description. Free to download. All we ask is that you share it with someone. It'll ask you how much you want to pay, and you can click 0, and it's free. Anyway, as Abraham, because he's Abraham now, so this must be after he was Abram, begins to comply, having bound Isaac to an altar, he is stopped by the angel of the Lord. A ram appears and is slaughtered in Isaac's stead, as God commends Abram's pious obedience to offer his son as a human sacrifice. Wow, that is fucking goofy. The angel of the Lord. That's a different thing, I guess. Especially in art, the episode is often called Sacrifice of Isaac, although in the end, Isaac was not sacrificed. Various scholars suggest that the original story of Abraham and Isaac may have been of a completed human sacrifice, later altered by redactors to substitute a ram for Isaac, while some traditions, including certain Jewish and Christian interpretations, maintain that Isaac actually was sacrificed. You know them. They want you to believe that all those kids were, like, if you question Handy Sook and you say, no, I don't believe that that's what happened, you're the bad guy for thinking, yeah, maybe a bunch of children weren't actually killed. Maybe it's a lie. Like, it's a much better thing to think that it was just a lie than children were actually killed. But that's not what they want, And they've tricked you. It's like if you say, I don't believe in slavery, you know who's going to get mad at you more than anybody else? Black people. Black people, for some reason, have been tricked into wanting to believe that the slavery narrative is a true one. It's really fucking crazy. You know what? This one's going to take too long. We'll just have to do it again tomorrow. I'm fucking exhausted. You guys don't understand what I go through to do these fucking videos, but nobody cares, and I don't care to do that. You know, I could just sit here and bitch the whole time, but I don't. We'll do the Binding of Isaac tomorrow. Because this is the story that they said consistently that would get brought up, and they would reenact it on these children in these ritual cults in Israel. They would reenact the binding of Isaac, and they would wound the genitals and shit like that. Like, it's really fucking disturbing. Again, ask yourself, who is going to be like, no, don't say those things. Don't talk about this. Don't read what the Bible says. Don't read the Wikipedia narrative that we give you. Who is going to be that interested in what I'm doing but want me to stop? They watch every day for hours on end because they want me to stop doing it? What sense does that make? Look, they're desperately trying to come up with whatever they can. Yep, I'm the pedo because I want to kill pedos. That makes so much sense. You, the person that comes and tries to interfere and tries to, you know, fuck with the video and attack people, and you want me to stop talking about wanting to kill pedos, you're the good guy. You're the non-pedo. Other than pedos and chosen, who is going to oppose this feed? Again, we have 15 watchers and 15 likes. Have you ever seen a feed like this before? Have you ever seen anything like what you're experiencing here? That should tell you something. With the hundreds of different truthers that you've come across in your life and the thousands and thousands of videos you've seen, for you to see something unique anywhere should warrant attention. You know, if it's new, you should be like, what the fuck? Why is this different than it is anywhere else? Why does this not work the same way it works on everyone else's feed? You're the type that's going to get people killed and then just laugh about it because you're perfectly fine. All you've done is attack everyone here and this guy to feed your own ego, kid. Chill out. Well, the problem with that is that you believe it. You should not believe it. These are bots. The vast majority of these profiles are bots. And the ones that aren't are doing, you know, they're on a mission. They've been tasked with the mission to fuck with this feed. They've been given the talking points. It's why they all say the same dumb shit. Wasting your energy on these fucking idiots, it's pointless. It doesn't matter. They'll never say anything that matters. You know, and a lot of times if you just let them talk, they end up outing themselves. They end up saying shit that only pedos say. And, you know, I mean, again, not at no point did any of these people ever come in here and be like, yeah, fuck those pedos. We need to kill all the pedos. They never say that shit. Every once in a while, one of them, after I point it out, will say it. Like, yeah, I said it, now what? But prior to being prompted to say it, they never say anything like it. Like, you're so important, huh? I am, clearly. You clearly worship me. You obsess over me. I'm bigger to you than most things in your life. 15 whole bots. Yeah, like, again, why would a feed, you know, I can't claim censorship when I have hundreds of viewers. When I should have hundreds of viewers and I only have 15, that's what censorship looks like. The cavalry of ignorance that does nothing to awaken people. All they do is validate it. I mean, it's just stupid, right? It's just stupidity. And it's that inbred stupidity that they always come at you with. Seriously, go find a video, an interview with an Israeli, with a Jewish guy, with a settler that you're like, well, they're actually making pretty good points here. They're actually making some pretty decent arguments. They're standing up to the challenges being put their way. Find it. Show me. Tell me what to look up. You know, you always see guys like Jordan Maxwell and you know, whoever that dumbass was they said earlier. If those guys are so good at what they do, how come they never have someone like me on? How come they never come to a feed like mine and debunk the fuck out of me and make me a convert that I then push their thing? That would be another live video, another feed bringing them attention. Especially if they could come in and smash someone like me. But they never see it. I literally beg for those people to come on here. Somebody, please, anybody that can answer any of these questions, anybody that's even slightly biblical, you know your Bible more than the average person. Like if I ask you what's the first thing your God did after it turned on the light, you don't just do. You know, I would love to be able to have a conversation with a religious person. But I can tell you that every single time I've ever spoken with a religious person or read a Bible passage or anything like that, I'm further away from the Bible than I was before I started. And I don't, a lot of times I don't even think that's possible. Like I think I get to that point where I'm like, there's no way I could think this is any dumber. And then I read some more and it's like, oh my God. The whole Sodom and Gomorrah story, where Christians use it to justify their bigotry towards gay people when the people weren't even gay. God made them gay. You know, it's like, what are you reading? You know, the story is Lot, this old man, another one of these old men, is sitting on the outskirts of town on like a post that's on the gate that's around this town. They got, again, back then they were capable of building some pretty amazing architecture. But he's sitting outside the town, or he's sitting on the wall when two, unbeknownst to him, angels come walking up. And for no explainable reason, Lot is like, hey, you guys, why don't you come stay the night at my house? And they're like, no thanks, guy. We're good. We got to get somewhere. And Lot's like, come on, I'll give you unleavened bread. And they're like, all right, we'll stay at your house. So now they're at Lot's house when all of a sudden, all of the people in the region, or in Sodom and Gomorrah, all the men are just stricken with gay. And it's not gay like, oh shit, let's start fucking each other. They're somehow specifically gay for these two angels that had shown up and went to Lot's house. I don't know how they all know that they're there or anything like that. But they're, imagine like the old pictures of like the blacksmith banging on the thing, clink, 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 and the men are sharpening swords and doing whatever shit men did back then. But they all just drop what they're doing and head on over to Lot's house, where they start yelling, hey, Lot, we are gay now. Send out those two men that you have in there so we can have sex with them. So we may know them. That's what it says. So we may know them. And Lot slips out and he's talking and he's like, hey, you guys, what are you doing here? And they're like, we want those dudes so we can have butt sex with them. And Lot's like, you can't have these two strangers that just showed up at my house. How about this? How about I have two virgin daughters, and if they're virgin daughters, they have to be like 12, 13 back in those times, 12, 13, 14. I have these two virgin daughters that you guys can have them instead. How about you have the virgin daughters Instead, you guys can do whatever you want with my virgin daughters. Just leave those two dudes alone. Those two strangers that just showed up. And the group is like, no, we are specifically gay for those two men, and we're gonna come get you. And they start walking towards Lot when one of the angels opens the door and pulls Lot inside and then makes everyone blind. And so they can't find the door handle. They're, oh, we're blind now. And then it's just later on in the day, and the angels are like, man, we shouldn't be telling you this, but God is going to destroy this whole Sodom and Gomorrah because of the debauch, because they're so gay. And Lot's probably thinking in his head, like, they weren't gay till you guys showed up, but okay, whatever. And he says, and we weren't to spare anybody, but because you brought us in your home and gave us unleavened bread, we will spare you. You need to leave. And Lot's like, man, I'm like super old. I have a hard time moving around. Is there any way we could just go to that little town that's not too far from here? And we can hang out there because I'm super old. And the angels are like, hang on a second. And they get out their little cell phones and they're like, hey, God, what's going on? It's Jim. I'm down here with Lot. And if you've ever been in one of those, an in-home salesperson, the phone call. The guy on the other line is like, what the fuck do you want? Like, he's shitty as hell to you. He fucks with you. And you'd be like, oh, I'm good. Thanks a lot. No, this house is beautiful. You really should see it. It's amazing what they've done here. But anyway, Lot was asking, because he saved us and all from the butt rapes, is there any way, because he's so old, that he can go to the town that's not too far from here? And God's like, oh, Jim, this better not be some more wood. Don't you be writing me wood. You keep writing up these fucking deals and none of these go through. And he's like, oh no, Lot's really serious. He's gonna go to the town. And God's like, okay, you better not be fucking around, and hangs up on him. And he's like, okay, thanks a lot, God. I'll talk to you real soon. I hope your wife's doing okay. All right, have a good day. He's already been hung up on. And so he's like, guess what, Lot? God said you can do that. Get your wife, get your daughters, get the two men that your daughters were betrothed to. Even though they were in the rape gang, we know that God just made them gay, but they can come too. So Lot then goes to the two guys that are betrothed to his daughters, and he's like, hey, you know how earlier today you were just gay for two guys you didn't even know, and then you were blind? And they were like, yeah, that was really weird. And Lot's like, well, fuck, man, that was God. God did all that, and he's going to rain fire and brimstone down upon the country, upon Sodom and Gomorrah. We got to get the fuck out of here. And those guys are like, oh, Lot, you're just an old man. You're crazy. We were just gay and blind for a little bit. That was nothing. God's not doing anything. And Lot's like, okay, I tried to help you. Then it's the morrow. And Lot, his wife, and his two daughters, using Godspeed, they leave town, and they were told not to turn and look. Don't look back, just go. But you know how dumb women are. Women are awful. His wife turned and looked, and when she did it, she was turned into a pillar of salt. And so they're like, oh, well, poor Susie. Now it's just Lot and his two daughters. And they get to the town, and Lot's like, hey, I think those angels might have been lying to us. I happen to have this cave up at the top of the mountain over there. Huh? Yeah, no, thank you. I happen to have this mountain, this cave, up at the top of that mountain, way over there. It's all set up. It's got, food and a lot of alcohol and beds and all kinds of shit in there. We need to go there instead. So they just Mario bounced their way up the mountain, because climbing up to the top of a mountain is easy. And when they get to the top of the mountain, they see that because now they're allowed to look back. Sodom and Gomorrah has been leveled into smoldering rubble. And so now again, this is the question I always want to ask people about the Bible. There's a point when the two daughters, the 12 and 13, 12 and 14, 13, whatever they are, they're preteen girls, are in this cave and they're having a conversation between them. So who wrote down what they said? Were there little naked butt cherubs flying around writing down all the little conversations that happen in the Bible? Because even, what Lot said to the angels. Who wrote that? Who heard that conversation and wrote it down so it could be in the Bible? But the two girls, they're like, our father is such a wonderful man. Remember how he offered us to the rape mob to save those two strangers? Well, he's such a great man. It's really too bad that his name won't live on because we're just dumb girls. It's too bad he doesn't have any sons to carry on his name. What we need to do is if we get him super, super drunk to where he doesn't remember it, because if the man remembers, then it's a bad thing. But if the girls know, they're just dumb girls, who care? But they need to lay with him, lay with their father, and get pregnant with boys so that they can pass on his great lineage. So that's what they do. They get their father super drunk, and the first night, the older sister, she lays with the father. The next morning, she's like, hey, fellow virgin sister, well, I guess not anymore. But I did it. I laid with father last night, and I'm pregnant. Because she knew she was pregnant the first day after. Like, why wouldn't she? She's a virgin. She's like, I'm pregnant. So tonight, younger sister, you need to do the same thing. And the younger sister did the same thing. And the next day, I'm pregnant too with a boy. And they both end up giving birth to healthy, strong boys. So amazing, in fact, that the one boy is the leader, the founder of the Moabite people. And the other one is the founder of the Samabite or something like that. I don't remember what the other one's called. But the Moabites are actually where the Nation of Islam and one of the original organizations that was absorbed by the Nation of Islam and inspired the Nation of Islam by a guy named Wallace Fard Muhammad, who looks like a young Netanyahu. I've shown you guys this, haven't I? Yeah, watch. So, but that's where black people come from. The Moabites they come from the black so the black people come from the inbred the inbred rape, where the daughters, like I had a Christian tell me one time, you mean where the daughters rape their fathers? He was all mad because I was saying it. That's where the black people come from. So this is Netanyahu, obviously. Oops. This is Netanyahu. And this is Wallace Fard Muhammad, the founder of the Nation of Islam. You know, the black Muslims. Isn't that amazing? Netanyahu, the founder of the Nation of Islam. It just goes to show you that it's all bullshit. And they've manipulated everything from every level at all points. Look, I'm done. Go get your free download, www.the-bilderberg, bilderberg-group.com. It's free. I don't know if it's the same guy, but it's they're relatives. Was that a quote guy, or is that just your belief? Which part? Which part are you asking about? What quote are you talking about? The bit about black people. Yeah, well, according to the, it's not the Nation of Islam. It was the precursor to it. I forget what it was called, but that guy believed that black people came from the Moabites. And the Moabites are the result of Lot and his daughter making a baby. It's pretty fucking crazy. I really suggest you look into, stop attacking our people. We're good. I thought you were stating your own opinion for a minute. No, I don't tend to do that. Most of my shit is factual. Or at least questioning the facts we're given. I follow what he's saying, but I'm not sure if he means all Muslims or just black Africans. No, the Nation of Islam is, the Muhammad or the Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, that whole the scary black Muslims that were used for decades to counteract, to counterbalance the white side of things. Like, obviously it was a creation. When you look at the history of Wallace Fard Muhammad, that dude had like fucking 12 names that he was known by throughout history. He just appears at 30 years old and then dies 20 years later. Like the whole story about Wallace Fard Muhammad, I really need to actually do more about it. But it's pretty fucking insane. It's how you come across, man. You have to understand that everybody in here, especially if they've been dealing with the bots, is going to be on edge. Like that we're supposed to. That's why the bots do what they do. It's supposed to get us all riled up and on edge. Right? Like how you are. You're responding. Like, what do you mean? All I said was like you're on edge right now. That's how they want us to be. So when you say just look it up for yourself, that's gonna come across as to somebody that's on edge, to somebody that's been dealing with this shit, that's going to come across as an attack. You have to understand how they're manipulating us. I simply stated the fact that link didn't work, man. Look it up. No, I thought you were talking to Lewis, sorry. I identify as a master trichnologist and a disciple of the big head science of Yakbud. Whatever, don't know what that is. No, I know you weren't talking to me. That's what I'm saying. You were talking to... I thought you were talking to the Lewis character. But you must have been talking to someone. But I'm just saying, we have to keep that in mind in all of this. All of us that are on the same page have to keep in mind that we're in a war. And they're doing their best to assault us. So anyway, go get your free download. It's free. It absolutely works. www.the-bilderberg, bilderberg-group.com. Good, how are you? It's free. Again, all we ask is that you share it with someone. We do appreciate the donations that have come in, but you don't have to pay anything for it. I'm going to leave you a link to Hollywoodism, which is the most important movie you can ever watch. And if that link doesn't work, just search it. Just search Hollywoodism and you'll find it. I wouldn't be surprised if they took it down. Since I've been sharing it and since they've undoubtedly had a lot more people come check it out and scrutinize what's being presented, they might have taken it down knowing that I use it. But Hollywoodism is the most important film ever made. It explains everything to you. They don't tell how exactly they created Hollywood, but that they created Hollywood, they ran it with an iron fist, and they used Hollywood to create the America that they wanted. They used it to manipulate our perspective on history, our perspective on government. At one point, one of the descendants says, you could essentially say that The American dream is the bad guy-ish dream. They don't even hide it. That's the best part about Hollywoodism, is it's not a conspiracy movie. It's not an Alex Jones movie. It's not it's a movie that they made about themselves as like this brag, like, look at what we did, knowing that most of us would never see it. Why would any of us watch that shit? It's an overtly Jewish movie. It starts off with like some pogrom bullshit. Like they try to paint a picture of something, but it's clearly, they tell you what you're looking at, because if you're looking at it, you don't see what they're telling you. But once they tell you what you've seen, you go, okay, I guess that's what I saw. They talk about how during the Holocaust, there was only 2 movies made about the Holocaust, and they were both made by Goyim. For some reason, these chosen studio heads who tried to make everything about them and their lives ignored this narrative until after it was done, and they went to a secret meeting in Germany where they all got together behind closed doors and decided how they were going to present the narrative from here on out. It's mind-blowing. Go watch Hollywoodism. Tell me what I'm getting wrong. I'm not sure I agree with the anti-Semitic stuff. Well, that's because you don't know it. At the end of the day, we're not talking about anti-Semitic. We're talking about anti-Semitism. Okay? And this should be more than enough to tell you that maybe you don't know what you're talking about just yet. Okay? So there's no funny business. Pull up the Google machine, put in Semitism definition. We're going to pull up the Merriam-Webster definition, Merriam-Webster.com, Merriam-Webster.com, Webster's Dictionary.
Semitism.
Okay, there's nothing going on.
Semitism.
Number 1A, Semitic character or qualities, which they don't have. New study came out, said that 95% of Israelis don't have Semitic blood. Number 1B, a characteristic feature of a Semitic language occurring in another language. Okay. Number 2, policy or predisposition favorable to bad guys. Policy or predisposition favorable.
Semitism.
Okay. Do you know what that means? Policy or predisposition. The rules, the regulations, the laws, and the predisposition. How you go into it thinking. Before you know the details, as long as you know that it involves the bad guys, it's favorable to them. That is supremacy. They don't say favorable to Zionists. It's favorable to the people who call all of us Goyim. We are Goyim. Anybody who believes themselves born superior, you should not be okay with that. Same thing with royals and all that shit. Just because you're born into something doesn't make you better than everyone else. Doesn't make you get, the laws work differently for you. The accountability is different for you. Go watch, you don't believe me, go watch Hollywoodism. It will tell you everything you need to know. I don't know how to provide more proof than I already do. I just literally showed you what the definition of Semitism is. They throw that shit around all the time, anti-Semitic. Well, if you were anti-Semitic, you'd be racist. You would hate all of the people from that region. Palestinians, Lebanese, Syrians, Iranians, Iraqis, even the North Africans, like the Egyptians and shit. These are all considered Semitic. That region is the Semitic region. Nobody is anti-Semitic. When Jews say that Palestinians are anti-Semitic, that is the biggest oxymoron ever. Those are the Semitic people. All you Milikowskis and shit, you're not Semitic. But Semitism is a completely different thing. Semitism was first coined in the 1880s exactly for what it means, opposing the supremacy that was ruling the land at the time in Germany. And then they stole it and they use it against us now because they don't want us using it. I do know that in 2020, they had hearings, they had official sort of shit, legislation, to change the spelling of anti-Semitism from ANTI hyphen capital, keep going, capital SEMITISM to ANTISEMITISM, which grammatically doesn't even make sense anyway. You know, this is two words put together to make one word. But they literally changed the spelling for the stated purpose that they didn't want us thinking that anti-Semitism opposed something called Semitism. They did not want us knowing that Semitism was a thing. So they changed the spelling. How many of you have ever heard of a word spelling being changed? Point it to me. In the last 100 years, show me where legislation and hearings are had to officially change the spelling of a word to hide its origins, to hide what it truly means. You know, it's so much deeper than you think it is. And they've weaponized anti-Semitism to the point where if they say that against you, you don't go, hell yeah, I'm opposed to supremacy. Now what? You go, oh, wait, no, I'm not trying to say that, dude. No, I'm not a racist. Blah, 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 blah. And you just start cowering and backing down. It's like a magic spell. It's where they got the idea for conspiracy theorists from. They invented the word conspiracy theorist, or the phrase conspiracy theorist, to combat the people talking about the JFK thing, because the JFK thing was just obviously a bunch of bullshit. So they created this term, conspiracy theorist, which is like calling somebody a racist or something, and people go, oh, no, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. No. I don't think crazy conspiracy theories. I just believe in God. Believe the earth is round. You know, I believe in Trump, but I don't believe in conspiracy theories. And that's just how they manipulate you. That's how they manipulate us as a whole, and they turn us against each other, so we're always fighting each other. Skin color, hair preference, sexual identity, religious preference. My sky daddy's better than your sky daddy. Did you know that all three sky daddies come from the same place? They're all three considered the Abrahamic religions because they all come from the same place. It's all a manipulation, and it's all to keep us the dumb Goyim slaves, the 2,800 Goyim slaves that each one of them need. It's a metaphor. It's not an actual literal thing. They're not literally going to each get 2,800. But the way it works out, each one of their lives is facilitated by about 2,800 of us. Somebody's got to cook the fries. Somebody's got to change the tires. Somebody's got to raise the next generation of fry cooks. You know, it's we are the 2,800 slaves. And we sit here and we argue about it. We defend them like they defend us for anything. They don't defend us for anything. They're literally killing us. It's a genocide. The fact that the Vatican isn't, vehemently opposing the Christians being slaughtered in Israel or by Israel right now. A lot of Palestinians are Christians. A lot of them. Because it's all, there's already been a one world government a long time ago. If COVID didn't show you there's a one world government, you're not paying attention. But it's not about creating the one world government. It's about maintaining it. Because for the first time in history, we're all connected in modern and known history. We're all connected. And because of this connection, we're seeing like, hey, we're all the same. We're not the bad guys. They're the bad guys. We need to unify against this obviously awful front. And that's what's happening. And that's what they're desperately trying to prevent. So go get your free download, because music is the most powerful weapon we have. Share it with as many people as you can. Go watch Hollywoodism, and at the very least, tell me what I'm wrong about, right? And then there'll be 3 links to our newest songs: Donald Trump Hates America, COVID Sauce, and Sleight of Hand Job, which is the brand newest one. There's also another new one called What Up Doe. I just don't have it in there. It's about how black people have been manipulated into being the fucking stereotypes we are. You know, people of color. It's really gross. By them, right? But go check that shit out. Again, go get your free download, share, like, share, and sub this. We need to be the unified Goyim to fight the unified machine. If they have us complete, like who doesn't agree that we should kill pedophiles? Who doesn't agree that we should stop the genocide? Who doesn't agree that we should end the slavery? And who thinks we shouldn't have these lives, these great lives that we should all have? It's 2025. We have the means, technology, and resources for everyone to live a really great life without anyone having to work. Or at the very least, if we did have to work, 2-3 hours a day, 3-4 days a week. So everybody can contribute, or however you want to put it. But machines could do the vast majority of the work and do it a lot better. And the jobs that do require people, there are lots of people out there who would still want to work even though they didn't have to. If you gave people that power, hey, your job keeps everyone else with electricity, there are people that will want that prestigious position. They'll like it. That'll be enough payment for them. We should all be living that life. We should be living the Israeli life. Free housing, free education, free health care, free food, free everything. They live that way off of our fucking tax dollars. I don't know why you are okay with that. Maybe it's because you just don't realize how many, between October 2023 and August of 2024, we gave a country with 9 to 10 million people 150 billion plus, around 150 billion dollars. Yes. On top of everything else we gave them that. Just think about how insane that is. Anyway, go get your free download. Go check out Hollywoodism. Go check out the Facebook page. If I'm not live here, I'm live there. Go share the weapons I'm providing you. I'm providing you with weapons. It's not a physical fight. It's a mental fight. And music crosses all cultures, all boundaries. If you don't know all the words, you can look it up, and then you know what you're saying. But you can get behind something that says what you want said. Share the fuck out of shit, man. Help get the word out there. We are no longer going to be the dumb goyim they insist we are. You have yourself a great day, and as always, the most important thing I ever say on here is that you pedophiles kill yourself.